Good morning. Today is September 10th. It is 9:30 in the morning, and I now call to order the meeting of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency and the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency, the joint meeting of the board of directors. We will begin with an invocation led by Director Taylor, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Director Miller. Director Taylor?
Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, we are ever grateful for the privilege to gather as leaders in transportation, whether in person or at home, to guide this agency and its precious resources for the betterment of all. God, as we navigate these dark times, from illness to financial distress, we stand on unsteady ground. We ask that your word would give us the foundation, the guiding light, the hope that will see us to a new day with renewed strength as a people and as an agency working for the transportation needs of our citizens. Father, bless those who remain on the front lines, serving the needs of us at great risk to themselves and their families. Please keep them safe. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Please turn and face the flag nearest to you. Join me in honoring the greatest symbol of freedom in the world. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America, to the republic
under God,
nation
liberty,
under God.
justice for all.
Thank you. Now we will ask the clerk to please call the roll.
I will begin the roll call with the San Joaquin Hills Board of Directors only. Vice Chair O'Neill.
Yes, here.
Okay. Sorry about that. All right. Director James.
Here.
Director Connors.
Here.
Director Heft.
Present.
Director Minigar.
Present.
Director Munsing.
Here.
Director Stevens.
Here.
And Director Vixoric.
Director Vixoric won't be here. I'm as Director Miller will be his alternate today.
Alternate Miller.
Here.
Now for our Foothill Eastern Board of Directors only. Vice Chair Puckett.
This is Director Penaloza, just got in.
Vice Chair Puckett here.
You didn't call my name.
Oh, sorry. I will be calling the joint board members after the Foothill Eastern Board of Directors. I apologize for not clarifying that. Okay. Vice Chair Puckett.
Here.
Director Beal.
Here.
Director Chafee.
Present.
Director Wong.
I am here.
Director Crane.
Here.
Director Miller.
Here.
Director Murphy.
Here.
Director Voigt.
Here.
Director Ward.
Here.
Now our joint agency board members, Chair Kelly.
Here.
Chair Shea.
Yes.
Director Bartlett.
Here.
Director Penaloza.
Here.
Director Taylor.
Here.
Director Wagner.
Here.
And Director Chamberlain.
Here.
We have a full quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum. We will now hear any public comments that have come in. Mr. Clerk, may we hear the public comments?
Yes, at this time during live public broadcasting, members of the public may address the joint boards of directors regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the joint boards of directors, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. We received 2 public comments. Our first public comment is from Amanda Quintanilla, Laura Smith, and Dennis Colbert Schnar. And this is the RUDA letter. And okay, I will begin reading this now. We write regarding the report issued by the Orange County Grand Jury on June 29, 2020, regarding its investigation of the activities of the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency and the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency, collectively known as the Transportation Corridor Agencies. While the report raises grave concerns regarding the TCA's activities, the grand jury acknowledged it was forced to suspend its investigative operations because of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic and submit its report early due to its time-limited impanelment. As the TCA operates federal aid highways within our congressional districts, we urge you to consider launching an investigation to follow up on the grand jury report to help ensure that these agencies abide by the intent of their founding legislation and implement policies that would provide for the sunset of their operations. As you know, the state of California formed the FETCA and the SJHTCA as joint powers authorities in 1986 to finance and construct toll roads in eastern and southern Orange County. The TCA now operates the transportation corridor network known as the toll roads, which consists of State Routes 73, 133, 241, and 261. These agencies were created to construct such roads, pay off their incurred debt, and sunset their operations. We have previously expressed deep concerns to state agencies about the TCA's operations, including actions beyond the scope of the TCA's intended purposes, purported mismanagement of public funds, and attempts to extend the agency's limited lifespan. Given these concerns, we have previously asked such agencies to carry out thorough audits of TCA's operations. Unfortunately, the grand jury found that there appears to have been no substantive response to our request. The grand jury initiated its investigation of the TCA in response to citizen complaints alleging mismanagement of their funds, unethical political practices, and violation of their establishing legislation. We greatly appreciate the service of the dedicated volunteers of the 2019-2020 Orange County Grand Jury for their methodical review of these claims. In its final report, the grand jury found that the TCA have already fulfilled the bulk of their original mandate to plan, finance, and build various roads in Orange County. Furthermore, the grand jury found that apart from the repayment of their accumulated debts, there appeared to be little, if anything, in the matter of highway planning, construction, or any county transportation activities the TCA can do that is not already being accomplished by Orange County Transportation Authority or the California Department of Transportation. Especially in the case of the SJHTCA, which has completed its work to build out State Route 73, the grand jury stated that it was unable to discover why SJHTCA has not instituted plans to pay off its debt and sunset its operations per the founding document recital and the subsequent restatement of its charter, nor any logical further plans or goals consistent with the original charter. And I'll have to finish this entire letter. Unfortunately, the grand jury noted a distinct impression that the TCA has gone into a self-perpetuation mode to expand their authority and extend the lifespan of the agencies. This includes involvement in projects that could extend beyond their legislative mandate, as well as refinancing their debt to delay the payoff debt date and eventual sunset of their operations. Such previous debt refinancing has not only prolonged the lifespan of the agencies, but also increased the overall cost of repayment. It is our understanding that the TCA will look to refinance their debt further in the coming years. Potential sequences of such actions include extending the life of the TCA beyond their current 2053 sunset date and additional increases in the amount of the interest to be paid. We are deeply concerned about any actions that could further prolong the lifespan of the TCA, expand their activities beyond their mandates, or increase their cost burden on road users and taxpayers. To compound these concerns, the grand jury report also details other troubling findings regarding the use of public funds by the TCA. The grand jury found that the TCA's activities come at a premium cost to Orange County residents and road users, given the membership on a TCA board is a cash cow for some and their substantial management costs compared to both Caltrans and OCTA. It also appears that private entities and elected officials who financially benefit from the existence of the TCA have lobbied quite extensively in Sacramento to block legislation intended to curtail the payment of development impact fees and accelerate the phase out of the TCA's operations. It is extremely concerning the financial interest in these agencies for a select few could outweigh efforts to deliver benefits to the residents of Orange County. As federal representatives of the districts wherein the TCA operate federal aid highways, we have a serious interest in promoting transparency and accountability in these agencies. That is why we hope you will consider heeding the call by the Orange County Grand Jury for further investigation in TCA's activities. It is hoped that the limited findings of this grand jury report will convince the responsible county and state oversight agencies and elected representatives that the investigations and external audits of the transportation corridor agencies and its two joint powers authorities requested by multiple federal and state elected representatives over the past 15 months to the governor and other state agencies will ultimately be acted upon in a manner befitting good governance and agency oversight rather than one of political expediency. Thank you for your attention to this important matter. That completes that public comment.
Madam Chair, this is Cynthia Connors.
Yes, Ms. Connors, go ahead.
I have a point of order regarding the length that the board has decided to establish on public comments. And while now people are sending in written comments to be read by the clerk instead of delivering themselves publicly, personally, it doesn't seem appropriate that someone can write a 5-page letter that takes 10 minutes to read. And it seems like we should encourage our commenters to limit themselves to a 3-minute message, however they send it in.
Yes, that point is well taken, and I'm going to ask our counsel to comment on why that one went longer.
In this particular instance, there were 3 separate commenters who submitted the letter. So it could have been broken down into each commenter submitting a portion that would have taken 3 minutes. And that's why the letter was read in its entirety.
Thank you, I understand.
Point of order, Madam Chair. We don't allow commenters to come, this is Wagner, we don't allow commenters to come to the dais and say, I'm going to give my 3 minutes to Joe, and then the next one, I'm going to give my 3 minutes to Joe. Why do we do that in this circumstance?
And General Counsel, please.
In this instance, it was not a commenter giving their time to another commenter, but rather 3 separate commenters together submitting the letter and asking that it be read. Were this a video pursuant to the procedures that are in the agency's administrative code, we would have not allowed the tacking on, but because it is a letter, it is in written form, our reading of the administrative code is that it is proper to have the letter read in its entirety, provided it did not exceed 9 minutes.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Wagner?
Well, I guess it does. I suppose we ought to then revisit the question if we're going to let people pile on like that for folks to cede their time.
I agree with you, Director Wagner. I think that in the future, if this happens, we need to physically split the letter into 3 parts and give the name of each person submitting the comment. Because you're right, we do not cede time to other speakers, and that although there was a reason for it this time in combining the letter, I think it does call into question what our procedure is. So we will clarify that for future public comments. And thank you, Director Wagner and Director Connors, for bringing that up.
Tony Beal, point of clarification.
Director Beal?
What were the 3 individuals who requested that this letter be read into the record? I apologize. Were they the authors of the letter or someone else? And if someone else, could you tell me their name, please?
Correct. So the three individuals that submitted this letter were Amanda Quintanilla, Laura Smith, and Dennis Colbert-Schnar, but the author of the letter is Rhonda L. Kraft, Inspector General. No.
That's who's addressed.
Oh, sorry. That's the address. The authors of this, and correct me if I'm wrong, Harley Ruda, Member of Congress, Mike Levin, Member of Congress, and Katie Porter, Member of Congress. Sorry.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, this is Director Bartlett.
Madam Chair, Wagner again. Let me jump in on this. I have serious questions about allowing multiple people to submit a letter and then we aggregate the time. However, given who the authors are and their positions as elected officials and representatives of the public as well as we are, I would say in this case, the time limit shouldn't apply. I have zero problem hearing from representatives of the public as they want to explain their positions. So I don't think that rule ought to apply in this case, but it should apply going forward to individual public speakers.
Madam Chair, this is Cynthia again.
Yes, I think I heard Director Bartlett trying to jump in. Can we hear from her next and then you, Director Connors?
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I agree with my other colleagues. We need to have some better protocols in place. I mean, when the public comments were being stated, it wasn't even read into the record at that point who the authors were on the document and relative to the public commenters. So we need to get a better process in place. I mean, on the other boards and commissions where we all sit, there's a time limit of 2 minutes or 3 minutes, just depending on how many people want to come and speak or how many are submitted into the record. And so basically, if things are being read into the record, when you hit the time limit, you stop. You just don't keep going, and we don't allow people to cede their time. So let's get our act together and figure out what protocols we want in place that are reasonable and basically stick to it. But you've got to announce who all the individuals are that are submitting and signing letters and such, because we're not getting that information until we ask for it specifically. All right, thank you.
Thank you, and we are noting that. I think we are still, even though we've been doing virtual meetings for some time now, it is still a process where different situations come up that we need to address. And let me go back now to Director Connors.
Thank you. I just had a quick question about the content, which wherein the toll roads were twice referred to as federal aid highways, and which is presumably where the congressional representatives have an interest in it. But I wonder if that's an accurate description of our roads.
Thank you, and we'll ask the staff to.
We can definitely follow up on that question, Director Connors, and make sure we get clarification. I think the initial findings we got from our advocates in Washington, D.C. is that our state roads are considered part of the federal highway system.
Okay, even though we were purchased and built with private bonds.
That is correct, to my understanding, Director Connors, but we will follow up on that, so we will take that as an action item.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have concluded the public comments and.
Oh, no, sorry, we have one more public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, we have one more public comment.
Okay. This public comment was submitted by Michelle Schumacher, and I will begin reading that now. Why does the TCA not include a warrant or a check register every month for directors or public to review like every other government agency? What are they trying to hide? Where is the transparency? Did you watch the CAPO Unified School District's attorney talk about the collusion between the TCA County and Caltrans while the TCA tried to put toll roads right on top of our children's schools? Collusion is a strong word for the backdoor deals and secret meetings outside of a public process a government agency is legally required to follow. Do you think that the TCA's reinstated ad hoc committee meetings, which are not open to the public, are a good step towards transparency? For this single purpose agency for toll roads, what is going on at the Vision Ad Hoc Committee? As a board member and elected official, your fiduciary duty is to the taxpayers. Are you okay with the continued closed door ad hoc meetings being held at the TCA? Do you know that the TCA has spent millions of dollars on lobbying for the state and federal government, more than what they have collected from residents and business owners' development fees? Do you think that the TCA should have stopped the South Orange County Traffic Relief Project when the TCA's own studies showed the damaging proposals would have little to no future traffic benefit? Or do you think waiting over a year to stop the process was a financially sound move? Do you think the TCA's electioneering is outside the TCA scope and JPA agreement? Do you agree that with the TCA being involved in local city council election through its fundraising layers of nonprofits and outside chamber and other groups? Do you think it is a wise OC expense for OC taxpayers for the TCA to fund an international toll group president's airfare, meals, hotel? It is clearly by the TCA's joint powers agreement, an international toll group is clearly way outside the intended local area. Intended local area benefit the TCA was formed for. Have you noticed the TCA is always patting itself on the back in long-winded page after page tomes while saying absolutely nothing? The tomes cost a fortune to create the Morris of pages to justify their poor performance and expenditures. Do you think the TCA is a successful experiment when taxpayer will pay 5 times the cost to construct the toll roads and they won't be free, as was the promise for many years after they were to be free and paid off? Please don't approve the doubling of bonds again. Pay down the existing bonds and don't be duped into doubling them again. Enron getting the debt off the books transactions are not appreciated. The TCA's response to the grand jury report is not only tone deaf, but it is inaccurate and incorrect. Until the TCA goes to Sacramento and makes sure the 241 legislatively ends at Oso Parkway instead of south of San Clemente, please know that there will be zero trust in transportation, and that is time.
Okay, this now concludes our public comment portion of the meeting, and we will move into the consent calendar for the board. We have items 1 through 3, 5, 7, and 9. Would any directors like to pull any of these items?
Madam
I'd
Chair,
like
this
to
is
move the consent calendar, please.
Madam Chair, this is Director Fred Minigar. I wanted to abstain from item number 1. I was not present at the meeting.
Noted.
Director Voigt
And
and Lake Forest like to move the consent calendar.
Director Voigt moves the calendar. Is there a second?
Sorry, Director Voigt.
Hang on a second. Madam Chair, point of clarification is the grand jury report on this consent?
No, it's item
Calendar,
12
that's
under
next.
action.
Thank you. I will be pulling that at the appropriate time. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, and Director Voigt, I'm sorry, you're on the other board. So I need a motion from San Joaquin Hills for the consent calendar.
This is Cynthia. I move the consent calendar.
This is Director Penaloza. I'll second.
And Director Munson seconded. And I will ask the clerk for a roll call vote.
Chair Kelly?
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Neill?
Yes.
Director James?
Aye.
Director Bartlett?
Yes.
Director Connors?
Yes.
Director Heff?
Aye.
Director Minigar?
I abstaining on item number 1.
Director Munson?
Yeah, yes.
Director Penaloza?
Yes.
Director Shea?
Yes.
Director Stevens?
Yes.
Director Taylor?
Yes.
Alternate Miller?
Aye.
And Director Wagner?
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously, noting the abstention of Director Minigar on item 1.
Thank you. And just to be sure we all note this, the grand jury response is item number 12 under action. It's not on the consent calendar. So we now look at the Foothill Eastern consent calendar, and we have items 1, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 9. Would any directors like to pull any item?
Move the
Director
calendar.
Voigt from Lake Forest like to move calendar.
I'll second.
Madam Chair, this is Director Ward.
And Director Ward, did you wish to pull something?
I did. I would like to pull 1, 6, and 8.
1, 6, and 8. And would any other directors wish to pull any item? All right, then the original maker of the motion would you like to move the balance of the consent
I'd
calendar?
like to move the balance. Thank you. This is Director Voigt. I'd like to move the balance, please. Thank you.
And
Director Boyd,
second by Shay.
and second by Shay. And roll call vote, please.
Chair Shay,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Once did she pull?
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kring,
Yeah, aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
That vote passes. We will now look at item number 1, which was pulled by Director Ward. The item number 1 is approval of the minutes. Did you have a question or a comment on that, Director Ward?
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I would point the directors to number 9, which was the payment card industry item. It only mentions one vote, and I seem to remember that there was quite a discussion on this, and I believe there was another vote taken. And so I would defer to Director Miller or Director Wagner, because I believe they were the makers of a different motion, a separate motion.
Yeah. Okay, I believe that staff is saying that you may be confusing that with an item from a previous meeting.
Okay, so I would defer to those two directors and ask them now if they made a separate motion on this. I might be. I just wanted to make sure that that motion was not left out.
Director Miller, did you
No,
have a separate motion?
I believe she is mistaken. The MGT contract was the one that we had the discussion about. And I believe the one we're talking about now is the audit.
Okay, thank you. And Director Wagner, what's the other one?
Similarly, I did not see any problem with the minutes other than I think they were dated incorrectly at one point. Don't know if that's been fixed in the official minutes, but I agree with Director Miller on this.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to make sure, and I'll move that item.
There's a motion by
Second.
Director Ward. Is there a second?
Second,
Kring. By Lucio Kring. And roll call vote?
Chair Shay,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kring,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
and Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Next item that was pulled from consent was item number 6, and that is the development impact fees, member agency audits and mitigation fee. Director Ward, did you have a question or a comment?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a comment or a question. If our staff member, Mr. Walker, is present, is he?
Yes,
I am.
So
go ahead.
I noticed, Mr. Walker, that this is for authorizing audits for several agencies. We do that every year. But it's also summarizing the Mitigation Fee Act, something that we have to do every year. And one of the comments in the beginning said that we look over the type and the amount of the fee imposed, the beginning and the ending balances of fees on deposit, and the amount of fees collected and interest earned, and the expenditures. And that's at the end of the report. But my question is on page 2. This is something I've always wanted to know. In the 3rd paragraph, it says, therefore, the fees are to be used to repay the indebtedness incurred to construct the Foothill Eastern Transportation corridors that have already been built. So it says the fees are supposed to pay for that debt. But what I had learned, or what I thought I had learned from the agency, is that after 1 year, we hold aside the fees that we received for a year, and we have fees that we have to hold aside for the bonds. But after a year, everything becomes unrestricted cash that's over and above that amount. So I would ask, do the development fees in excess of what we need for our debt each year, do those go to unrestricted cash? Or are they held
Okay,
in an account?
Okay, and I'm actually going to turn to our CEO for that.
Thank you for your question, Director Ward, and I will ask our CFO, Amy Potter, to provide a response.
Yes, thank you. So you are correct that after debt service is made during the year, that the development impact fees do become part of our unrestricted cash. However, in accordance with this Mitigation Fee Act, we are required to track them separately. And since the agency was able to build the project or the roads in existence today prior to collecting all of the fees by issuing toll revenue bonds, we are now paying back those bonds with the tolls collected and the development impact fees. But the development impact fees can be used for both the bond payments to repay the bonds that were used to construct the roads, or for additional construction of the facilities.
Okay, so what I'm wondering is, though, if they're in unrestricted cash after 1 year, does that money go for anything other than paying down the debt or paying for future improvements? Could it go for any other type of contract other than constructing a road, because it's unrestricted cash? I'm just trying to, it's something I've always wondered, and because I saw the wording in here, I thought I would ask, because I noticed on the last page, it shows a balance of fees on deposit of July of 2019. And I'm just wondering what that balance is. Is that the separate accounting that you mentioned? And that's all the fees that we have? Or is that how much we've had to hold aside for that year?
That's correct, that's the balance. And so that is the accounting that we're required to do in accordance with the Mitigation Fee Act. And so we present the balance of DIFs that we still hold at the beginning of the year, and the amounts collected during the year, the interest earned on those, the expenditures, and the balance at the end of the year.
Okay, so it mentioned, my last question, it mentioned in the balance of fees that 75 million of that was applied to principal and interest on the bond refunding in 2019. Did we use those mitigation fees for that bond refunding because that's what's required?
It was used towards payment of bonds. And that is one of the agency's goals, is to pay down bonds. And development impact fees, as I mentioned, can be used for the repayment of bonds because we built the roads in advance of collecting the fees.
Okay. So I wanted to see that because I think that's wording that I had not seen before. And I just wanted to see, I'm trying to understand the refunding because I know we have something coming up in this agenda on a possible refunding. So I wanted to understand this. So that balance of fees, that just happens to be what's left after we've spent some of the money because it was in unrestricted cash. I mean, that's not the fees that we've collected well over the years.
That's the balance of the fees that have been collected over the year.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll move that item. Thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
There's a motion by Director Ward. Is there a second?
So moved, Kring.
By Crane. And roll call vote, please.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes, thank you.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
That vote passes, and we now will take a turn to item number 8, which was pulled from consent. Director Ward, did you have a question?
Thank you, Madam. I did have a question on 8. It was because the budget status report did mention diffs collected are to repay the indebtedness incurred. And so I did pull it just in case I had a comment if number 7 that I pulled didn't answer it. So Amy, I do not have a question. You answered it in the last one, so I apologize for the second roll call vote on this, and I move the item.
There's a motion by Director Ward. Is there a second?
Second, Puckett.
Second by Director Puckett. And roll call vote, please.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Crane,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
and Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Okay, we now move on to board business. Items 10 through 12. We begin with item number 10, the Traffic and Revenue Study Task Order Bond Refunding Opportunity. And I will ask for the report from our CFO, Amy Potter.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Amy Potter, CFO. This item relates to a request for a task order authorization for some traffic and revenue work related to a bond refunding opportunity that could reduce the agency's interest payments between 70 and 90 million without extending any of the bond maturity dates. Next slide, please. And so in accordance with the agency's debt management policy, we are always looking for opportunities to reduce our payments as well as make early payments on bonds. And so following the some of the volatility that we've seen in the market, we actually are now seeing an opportunity related to some of the Foothill Eastern's bonds to save significant amounts, as I just mentioned. Next slide. And so this transaction would be very similar to the one that we just executed in December 2019, where the agency, Foothill Eastern Agency, refunded 820 million of bonds and reduced the bond interest payments by over 335 million without extending any of the bond maturity dates. And I would just like to clarify something here, that the agency, neither agency has any plans to extend the bond maturity dates. In fact, the agencies have been looking at reducing our payments in any opportunity we find, as well as paying bond payments early. And so now that we've continued to analyze these bonds, we do have an opportunity with some bonds that we didn't refund back in December. Next slide. And so we're looking here at an opportunity related to 494 million of senior lien bonds and approximately 187 million of junior lien bonds. And what we did is we presented this opportunity to the Joint Finance and Investment Committee on August 26th. And based on the significant savings without extending any bond maturity dates, the committee directed staff to bring forward this item today so that we would be able to at least prepare and get ready for a transaction and continue to work with the committee. And then at the committee's direction, bring back an actual bond transaction at the appropriate time. Next slide. And so this transaction would be very similar, as I mentioned, to the last one. So we would use an escrow account to defease the bonds that are callable in 2024. And in this case, we would not recommend contributing any cash. But what's important to note here is that these savings that I've mentioned of between 70 and 90 million in reduced payments is net of all of the costs of the transaction, including anything related to the escrow. Next slide. When we presented this analysis to the Joint Finance and Investment Committee, we went through great detail on the transaction and looking at what happens to the savings if interest rates don't change, and what would happen if our borrowing rate were perhaps to increase. And so I've just summarized that here, the highlights of really what we presented. And so based on current rates today, we're looking at a savings or reduced payments of approximately 87 million. And if rates were to increase 25 basis points or 0.25%, that savings would go down to about 60 million. But then if rates don't change at all, and time goes by as we're preparing, our savings could actually go up more in the $90 to $100 million range. Next slide. And I think it's really important here to understand too what our borrowing rate is. We went through this in quite detail with the committee, but I think for the board here today, it's just important to understand that when we talk about rates, we don't just talk about the treasury rate. So that's the bottom line you see here on this graph, the gold line. And you can see that that's pretty steady. It's been coming down over time. And so it's very low right now. But we also pay what they call a spread or a credit spread when we issue bonds. And so the green and the blue line represent those spreads. And you can see that those do fluctuate over time. And so that's where what we tend to do is get ready and prepare for a transaction once we see an opportunity, but then we have to continue to watch the rates and enter the market at the appropriate time. Next slide. And so this is really just some of the work that we would need to do in order to prepare to execute a transaction. And one of the key items is some work related to our traffic and revenue study that we have in existence. Next slide. And so you may recall that just last month, the board approved a new on-call contract for traffic and revenue services. And we had indicated at that time that any task orders would return to the board for contract authorization. And Stantec is part of that on-call bench. And Stantec had prepared the agency's investment grade traffic and revenue study that's currently in use for the bonds. And so whenever we enter the market, if we do a refunding of bonds, the investors require what they call a bring down letter, which really either affirms or updates the traffic and revenue forecast that's in place. And so what this task order would include would be the normal work that we would always do for the bring down letter, which would be looking at an updated forecast scenario and also updated socioeconomic information. But also during this COVID pandemic, the TNR consultant would need to run some sensitivities related to what may or may not happen with COVID. And there have been a number of bond transactions in the market during this pandemic. And our traffic and revenue consultant, Stantec, has experience with already issuing or supporting some transactions that have been issued under the pandemic. Next slide. And so really we have this opportunity before us, as I mentioned, and based on the Joint Finance and Investment Committee's review, we have an opportunity to move forward and just prepare to be ready for this. And there are some non-contingent costs that would enable us to prepare to execute a refunding. And so our plan would be to continue to work with the Finance Committee and provide updated analysis, and then get direction on when to present a bond transaction to the board for approval. Next slide. And so the recommendation today would authorize these services that we need for traffic and revenue work related to preparing for a bond transaction. And so as shown on this slide, to authorize the Chief Executive Officer to execute task order number 001 with Stantec in an amount not to exceed $50,000, and also to authorize the CEO to make any additional changes deemed necessary within 10% or $5,000 without further board action, and also to approve budget resolution F 2020-07, amending the fiscal year 21 budget by $55,000. And just as you recall, we were very conservative in our budgeting for fiscal year 21, so we did not include any funding for this type of service. And so that concludes my report, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Mrs. Potter. And just to remind everyone, this is a Foothill Eastern Board of Directors item. Are there any board members that have any questions?
Madam Chair, I have a question. Director Ward.
Director Ward has a question, and let me know who else has a question, and we'll decide if we need to do a roll call on asking questions.
This is Director Chafee. I'd like to make a comment if I can.
Okay, so we have Ward, Chafee.
Madam Chair, this is Director Miller. I have a couple comments I'd like to make.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, let's go first. Did you have a comment first, Mr.?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. As our CFO highlighted, this is some initial work we'd like to be working on to prepare to present the board with recommendations on taking advantage of this opportunity. I just wanted to share that I participated in an early morning call yesterday with 40 plus CEOs of toll agencies around the world, and this was a hot item of discussion. So there are lots of toll agencies similar to ours who are looking at the market and taking advantage of this opportunity. And a key thing that was highlighted was an agency like ours with our financial position and our liquidity, this is an opportune time for the agency to save money. So I just wanted to share that this is something that's being discussed across our industry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. CEO. And now we will go to Director Ward and followed by Director Chafee.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I wanted to make a comment to staff. On the first page into the second page, it starts talking about the traffic and revenue process that's needed. And it says staff indicates the contract authorization for Stantec would be needed for the traffic and revenue analysis, and that this activity would require the majority of the approximate 15-week preparation. To me, that sounds like we have a 15-week time period, and you're going to be coming back to us with a bond refunding. So I thought that was an odd sentence to put in there. So my concern is that you're asking us to look at a traffic and revenue study for $55,000 for something that's going to maybe happen in the future, but we have something here saying that it's going to take the whole 15-week preparation. And I think anytime you do a traffic and revenue study like this and you're asking them to work on a bring down letter, we're doing a bond refunding. That's where we're headed. And I listened to the committee meeting and I heard interesting things there. I'm hoping Director Miller is going to be talking about that there was a question on whether we should pay off some of our bonds and what that would look like. And I think the entire board should know what that would look like and what the other possibilities are before we start talking about paying these down. And the last question is, and I don't know if Director Chafee is going to bring it up, but there's a question of these bonds are not taxable and we're going to be making them taxable. And there's also a question of that we're going to, if we don't wait and we do the refunding now, there's comments on that we're going to get savings, but we might get some more savings later if we just wait a little while longer. So all I heard is we might get $10 to $20 million more. And I'm not sure if that's all of the savings. So I would like all of that discussed, and I hope the directors are going to be commenting on that.
Thank you. CEO, please.
Yes, so Director Ward, I will ask Ms. Potter to chime in some more, but I wanted to make it clear to the board that this work does not commit the board to approving a transaction. We think it's important work in providing the types of analysis you mentioned, and we will definitely be working with the Finance Committee to follow up on its questions as part of that analysis. But I think the savings you noted may have been understated, so I'll ask Ms. Potter to highlight that more because this is a significant opportunity for the Foothill Agency. Ms. Potter.
Yes, as I mentioned, we're looking at a range of 70 to 90 million in reduced payments without extending any of the bond maturity dates. And that translates into a 9 to 11% present value savings, which well exceeds our debt management policy thresholds.
All right, Director Ward, does that answer your question?
It does to some aspect on the savings. I'm just interested in the discussion that was had on whether we should pay off some of our, maybe our junior lien bonds and what that would do for the agency if it would put us in a better position.
So Director Ward, we can definitely arrange a briefing with you. As I noted, that's part of the analysis that staff will continue to do. So as we work through that analysis and we update the Finance and Investment Committee, we can definitely work to update you with those findings as well. But the action we're asking for today is important to be able to do that analysis that you're requesting.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. My last question, if the board would look at the actual resolution. I'm not sure why this is in here, and Samuel, you might be able to answer that, or Amy. Number 2 is asking for permission for the chief executive officer to reallocate within budget categories different amounts. But I'm not sure why that is in the traffic and revenue study task order. So that's my last question. I'm not sure why that part is in the resolution, asking the board for.
Yes, I can respond to that. That's our standard language, because within the original budget that you adopted, that's the same language that was in there. And so when we do an amendment, we really just recite all of what was already approved in the original budget resolution, and then the change that we're proposing, which is really on page 2, which is number 1, now therefore, and that's where we're talking about amending it by 55,000.
Okay, thank you, Amy. I think it would be helpful to just state that that's the original as per the budget, as seen in the budget, something like that. So we don't have to compare it to see if it's the same. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Chafee.
Yes, thank you. First, I'd like to thank Amy Potter for the private briefing that you gave me. And I think many of the questions that Director Ward has, I asked, and was very pleased to hear how they would be resolved. I think a similar briefing with Director Ward would be appreciated by her. This opportunity is sort of based on timing of things. We cannot automatically just pay off existing bond debt until certain events happen, such as a call date. So we're not really retiring anything, rather we're adding a taxable bond issue that will then help us pay down when the time comes, the debt that's been indicated. And there's significant savings when you do the math, when you work through that. I note that the summary indicates a minimum of 3% savings based on a present value calculation. I would not move forward with such a slight savings. I think, though, if I remember what Ms. Potter told, it would be more like in the 10 to 11% present value savings, which is well worthwhile. This is simply getting prepared to do something, and I support that type of action. Nothing like being prepared to take advantage of the opportunity. And this study here is part of what's required to get to that point. And I think the study, if I understood Ms. Potter, probably is good for a year, and then you may need to update it. So it gives us considerable time to look ahead as to when an opportune moment would come to possibly consider doing this bond issue. And you have to work through the math to see the financial benefit. But the fact that it gives us a savings gives us an opportunity to retire more bonds in the future at an even earlier date. So I think this is an important first step. If I may, I'm going to move the item, all parts of it.
Thank you,
And I'll second
Supervisor
that,
Shea.
Shea. Director Shea will second that.
And Chair Shea seconded. Okay, thank you. We do have a motion and a second on the floor. We'll continue our discussion. Director Chafee, thank you for taking the time to be personally briefed on this and to bring your questions forward ahead of time. And just as a reminder, our staff is above and beyond willing to meet with anyone who has questions or who would like further information. So please remember that. Now, Director Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I also want to thank Ms. Potter. We had a pretty in-depth conversation earlier this week regarding these issues. And we did address my concern that we weren't looking at paying down some debt, because we did take a position, I believe it was last year, that we have $125 million worth of I guess term bonds, I think what it is, coming due in 2022. And we have these junior bonds that are about 189 million, I think the number is, that are even at a higher rate than those term bonds. And the discussion came down to, does it make sense to start paying these off? How are we going to get that analysis done? And the reality is we need to go through this process to make that determination. We actually went into deeper conversations about maybe we pay a percentage of some of them off, and all the juniors a percentage of the term, or all the term and a percentage of the juniors. Those are things that we need to discuss as a board on what our goals are going to be. And Ms. Potter did a very good job explaining how that would work, and we're going to have those conversations later. But we do need to get this done, this work done before we can even make a decision on that. It was very, we talked specifically about the desire of this board to start paying off debt, and making sure that when we do these refis, if we decide not to pay off the juniors, that we have call dates so we can do that in the future. And Supervisor Chafee hit it right on the head. When we do these refis, it actually puts us in a better cash position when we do get those calls in the future to start paying down more of our debt at an earlier date. So I do support this. We need to get this work done, and I look forward to the continued conversation on what our strategy should be moving forward and what debt we could pay down and what does and doesn't make sense. So that's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you. And I will just wrap up before we vote and say that I truly commend CFO Potter and CEO Johnson for their heads up work on this and really having their radar up and watching and looking out for the best savings opportunities for us. I agree this is a great move to do, and with that, I will ask for the roll call vote. And this is Foothill.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kring,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. That vote passes. And now item number 11, we have a fun one here, and we will first, this is also Foothill Eastern Board. I will ask Director Shea, as the chair of the Joint Environmental Committee, to introduce this item. Chair Shea?
Yes, thank you so very much. I'm so pleased to be able to do this. It is a part of what we do here at TCA. So the Joint Environmental Committee has been working with our staff to continually enhance the agency's environmental programs by using environmentally friendly management strategies for our agency, which includes mitigation sites of including a 3-year pilot cattle grazing program currently being proposed at the Live Oak Plaza property. And if you haven't been out there, please consider taking a tour with our staff. It's just a beautiful property there at Live Oak. The committee agreed with staff's recommendation that this 3-year grazing program can assist with reducing invasive plants, reduce dry vegetation, and of course, top priority, reduce the risk of wildfires. At the August 26th committee meeting, members concurred with the recommendation to enter into a contract with 5 Bar Beef, provide the cattle grazing services, and to amend Task Order 5 with Land IQ for the biological monitoring services needed to support this grazing program. And so I'm very pleased to be a part of this plan. I've been working on it for many years with the last couple of years with our environmental committee. I'm glad we're at this point, and I would now turn this over to our staff.
Thank you. And we will have a report by Virginia Gomez.
Great, thank you. I hope everybody can hear me clearly. Good morning, directors. My name is Virginia Gomez, the environmental analyst for the agencies. The item before you today is an update on the recommendation for the cattle grazing services procurement and task order amendment for the biological monitoring services required for the Live Oak Plaza property pilot grazing program. This item was unanimously approved by the Joint Environmental Committee on August 26th. Next slide. The Live Oak Plaza property is a 23-acre site acquired by the agency in 2005. The site is located at the corner of El Toro Road and Live Oak Canyon Road across from Cook's Corner. The photos in this slide give you an idea of the terrain and existing habitat on the site, which is dominated by non-native grasslands, mostly dried black mustard, as seen in the picture on the bottom left. This site has high potential to provide habitat to various wildlife, including the California gnatcatcher and deer, to name a few. Next slide. Earlier this year, the Joint Environmental Committee and Foothill Eastern Board approved staff's recommendation to implement a 3-year science-based pilot conservation grazing program at Live Oak. The grazing program recommendations include utilizing cattle to graze the site and monitoring and documentation. Next slide. In July, staff invited cattle grazers to submit proposals to provide grazing services for the grazing program. The scope of services to be provided by the contractor include pre-grazing site preparation services, cattle grazing, and the provision of supplemental water and feed. The cattle grazer will provide supplemental feed only during the events where the nutritional value of the vegetation is low, mainly during the dry season, and will provide daily monitoring of the cattle. Next slide. At the end of the procurement period, one proposal was received from 5 Bar Beef. The owner of 5 Bar Beef, Mr. Frank Fitzpatrick, pictured here on the horse, is a rangeland manager with nearly 40 years of experience in cattle grazing industry and has experience with conservation grazing. 5 Bar Beef is located adjacent to the Live Oak Plaza property, thereby allowing for ease of daily monitoring and immediate response needs. Staff considered the contractor to be highly qualified to meet the agency's needs and is recommending approval of the selection of 5 Bar Beef as a cattle grazing contractor for the 3-year grazing program. Next slide. In addition, staff is recommending an amendment to Task Order 5 with our existing on-call biological services bench contractor, Land IQ, for the biological monitoring services needed to support the grazing program. The scope of services include baseline survey, biological monitoring required prior to, during, and after the grazing periods, and reporting. Next slide. In closing, the following recommendations would authorize the Chief Executive Officer to enter into a contract with 5 Bar Beef to conduct the pilot grazing program for $44,625. Amend Task Order 5 with Land IQ to provide the program's on-call biological support services for $104,000 and to provide a 10% contingency for both contracts. This requested authorization is for the full 3-year program. This completes my presentation, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Madam Chair, I'd like to move on behalf of Foothill Eastern, Director Scott Boyce from Lake Forest. This is something that's a new concept in land management, mitigation land, allowing, it's a common sense thing, but allowing the locals to utilize the land and beautify the land and enjoy the land. We started this with a stable in the canyon, and now we're actually allowing a cattle grazer to mitigate the weeds and weed abatement with natural resources and allow him to continue his cattle grazing on the property in the benefit of the community, because once all of South Orange County was grazed by cattle. And this is something that we remember the past, but we challenge the future. And I want to commend TCA staff and going forward with this project. And thank you so much. And I'd like to move this on behalf of Foothill Eastern. Thank you.
And I will second it on behalf of Foothill Eastern, Director Shea.
Thank you. We have a motion by Director Voigt and a second by Chair Shea. Now we can open it up for any questions or discussion. Do any board members have any questions? Seeing none, then I will ask for the roll call vote.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Crane, Director Crane,
Aye.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Aye.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt,
Yes, and thank you.
Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Ward.
Aye.
Vote passes unanimously.
Thank you. That vote passes. And we will now go on to item number 12. This is the proposed response to the June 29th Orange County Grand Jury report on the transportation corridor agencies. This is a joint board item, and we will have the report by Valerie McFall, but just to let you know, this item will dictate concurrence by both boards, and to manage our time, we will be having questions and allowing each director to comment. So may we first have the report by Director or by Deputy CEO McFall, please.
Good morning, Chair Kelly and directors of the board. Again, I'm Valerie McFall, and I'm pleased to present the Transportation Corridor Agency's proposed responses to the June 29th, 2020 Orange County Grand Jury report findings and recommendations. A complete copy of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency and the Foothill Eastern Agency's draft responses were distributed as part of your agenda package, along with the supplemental information that board members requested be distributed to the joint boards. The supplemental agenda and information were also posted to the agency's website. Next slide, please. As noted in the grand jury report, their investigation was initiated due to 3 citizen complaints. With these alleged complaints, the Orange County Grand Jury initiated its review of the agencies last fall. The review included reading online news articles about TCA, speaking with the 3 individuals that filed the complaints, some current and former city and county officials, a few TCA staff and board members, and a limited set of other information. Based on this, the grand jury released the report on June 29th, to which TCA provided its initial response the day after. Next slide, please. While the grand jury report contains many inaccuracies, including misinformation and inconsistent timelines, the report acknowledges that there was no fiscal mismanagement by TCA and that we are in compliance with state statutes. It also cites that we've implemented measures for additional transparency by webcasting our committee meetings, and most notably that the Foothill Eastern Agency concluded its South County Traffic Relief Effort Study. Next slide, please. The grand jury report itself contains a section on its findings and a section on its recommendations. The findings and recommendations were broken out by each agency and whether it applied to both agencies. These 2 sections of the report closely mirror each other. Therefore, you will see the draft responses also closely align and respond to each. There was one recommendation that was identified for response by the County of Orange Board of Supervisors, to which they addressed earlier this month. Next slide, please. The draft responses for your consideration were prepared in concert with our general counsel and based on factual and timely information that was not relied upon by the grand jury when preparing its report. Overall, TCA disagrees with the report's findings and recommendations, except for finding number 9 and recommendation number 6, as both acknowledge the agency's capable in-house communications staff. There is, however, one recommendation, which is number 9, that staff would like direction from the boards. This relates to the recommendation that as each director is appointed to the San Joaquin Hills Board or the Foothill Eastern Board, that they read and acknowledge, having done so, the 3 governing documents for the agencies. Currently, the draft response requires TCA to provide a follow-up within 6 months on whether this will be implemented. Based on your direction today, we can leave it as drafted, or we can identify a date in the future where it will be implemented, or explain why it's not warranted. Next slide, please. As far as next steps, staff will make any needed changes to the former responses based on the board's direction today and submit these responses within the required 90 days, which is September 27th. Next slide, please. In conclusion, staff would like to receive concurrence from the San Joaquin Hills and the Foothill Eastern boards to submit the formal responses provided in your agenda package. My recommendation is on the slide before you today. This concludes my presentation, Madam Chair. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. And as I mentioned, this will dictate concurrence by both boards. And I will be asking the clerk to go through the rosters of both boards before we call for any votes. So I know that we are expecting a lot of comments on this. I'll ask you to keep your comments brief, but we do want to hear from everyone. And I'm going to ask the clerk to call the roster for any questions or comments at this time.
Director Wong.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have a comment. Actually, in fact, I have a request, and I believe the matter was sent forward to members of the board. My request is that a copy of the San Clemente RFP for the their public relations firm be attached to the grand jury, to our response. I believe that a lot of what was going on throughout the past 2 years that have been basically, I call it frontal assault on this agency, need to be demonstrated through this RFP that San Clemente had, because basically the firm that was contracted by San Clemente carried out the plans that were detailed in the RFP. I think that's very important so that the grand jury has both sides of the story, rather just a limited scope or a limited spotlight on the agency. So that is where I would make the request and as a supplement to our response. Thank you.
Okay, and did you wish to include the San Clemente contract and also the Englander proposal of work?
Yes, that's what I was trying to remember the name as I'm flipping through multiple screens, the Englander report. That's correct. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Director Wong, thank you. And we'll go to the next commenter now.
Director Taylor.
Yes, I agree that San Clemente proposals should be included. I agree also with the recommendations of the TCA on the grand jury report, and so I'm in full agreement with it and should move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Director Beal.
Yes, thank you very much. I want to commend staff first for putting together a very thorough and clear, concise response. I was deeply troubled when I read the grand jury report because there were so many misstatements, factual errors, misleading statements, statements made without any evidence to back it up. And I believe it's incumbent upon this agency to set the record straight, be clear, concise, and factual. And I think that's what the draft report or response that we have does. I'm in full support of attaching to our response the original San Clemente Englander proposal, the contract that was signed by the city of San Clemente with that contractor in 2017. And I believe we should also attach evidence to confirm that hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe as much as $1 million, has been spent to date by the city of San Clemente on that contract. And I wanted to ask staff, have you been able to ascertain, based upon public documents, how much money has been spent to date by the city of San Clemente on this particular contract? I know it's difficult to come up with an answer because it's my understanding that although we are routinely at TCA accused of a lack of transparency and backdoor deals, this particular contract was hidden by the city of San Clemente, in my opinion, improperly. It was hidden under their city attorney's contract. And so members of the public, including TCA, it was not readily apparent that this contract was in existence and how much was being spent. So a question to staff, are you able to confirm how much money has been spent to date on this particular contract?
Thank you for your question, Director Beal. We do have a sense of what's been spent, and it does appear to approach the $1 million mark that you noted. We don't have all the details, and we would need additional information from San Clemente to get that information. But our understanding in listening to their city council meetings and looking at the contract that staff was requested to provide to the board, we know there was an initial amount which approached $100,000. And then at a later city council meeting, it was referenced that nearly $865,000, I believe, had been paid to this consultant through their legal contract. Beyond those two amounts, we would need to make more inquiries into the city to get that information.
But I think that would be helpful to do. I think that it's important for the public, when they see our response, to understand the nature and the tremendous investment that was made by the city of San Clemente to carry out what their own consultant described as a public antagonism campaign. The scope of work originally stated, because the TCA's primary challenge throughout its history has been earning public support for their activities, the path to success is to increase public antagonism towards the agency, its board of directors within their home cities, taxpayers, and even environmental groups. And then it went on to list how that would be done. It included litigation, and it talked about even causing taxpayer-sponsored litigation to be filed against us. I don't understand how city money, taxpayer money, is being spent to encourage taxpayers to file private lawsuits against our agency. That seems to me to be illegal express advocacy. It talks about potential legislation, and we have seen legislation, anti-TCA legislation, brought up by Rocky Chavez, Bill Breaux, Pat Bates. Coincidence? I don't think so. And now we have a letter from 3 Congress people asking for an investigation of the TCA based upon the grand jury report. A question for staff. How many meetings did TCA staff have with any of the 3 congresspeople who submitted that letter?
Thank you for your question, Director Beal. Since I've been serving as interim, we have not been contacted at all by those 3 Congress members to request any information or to hold a meeting.
Did any of those congresspeople ever phone you or anyone at TCA and ask any questions regarding the grand jury report?
No, Director.
So I find that highly suspect. And to me, that letter reeks of politics. And to me, it also seems to fall in line with the exact scope of work described in that Harvey Englander contract proposal with the city of San Clemente. Question for staff. How many public records requests have we as an agency fielded over the past year? From San Clemente, the city, and or residents of that city?
The clerks are informing me, Director, that we have received over 100 of those PRA requests. The vast majority, I would say 95% plus, are from residents within San Clemente. And we are working to track the cost to the agency related to those efforts. Our rough estimate is we've spent probably in excess of $1 million trying to respond to those PRA requests.
Thank you. The reason I ask that question is that the same scope of work from San Clemente's $1 million consultant included a strategy to make regular requests under the California Public Records Act of staff for consultant salaries, consulting costs, and other expenditures. My point here is that this proposal was more than a proposal. It was a signed contract, and it has been carried out, and a public antagonism campaign has been carried out against this agency, its directors, its staff, with the sole purpose of tarnishing the reputation of everyone involved to try and put the TCA out of business. And they used a scorched earth policy. And it was described in that same proposal. Many organizations believe that Sun Tzu's The Art of War is the preeminent textbook when preparing to go to war. And the consultant said, we agree. And the reason I'm wanting to make this point, and this is my final comment, why I think it's so important to really include these facts and detail them clearly, is because the grand jury, they quoted me at one place on page 38, and then they put a reference to me in the footnote on the last page of this. They saw fit to make reference to me in this report, yet they never took the time to contact me, interview me. I would have gladly provided them all the information to back up what I said. I referenced in my comments that they quoted that we all saw the scope of work that came from the public affairs or lobbyists that were hired by the city of San Clemente. I referenced it. And what I would like to see is the evidence that I was basing my comments on. I believe I need to have that included in here so that the public, the grand jury, the judge that sees this, that they could all see what I was referring to. Because these are public records, they're factual, objective, and crystal clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Beal. Next speaker, and we are going in a randomized order here. We're not going directly down the roster. So,
Director Crean.
Oh, yes, hi. Well, I couldn't have said it any better than Director Beal. I absolutely agree with everything that he said. excuse me, I developed allergies and it's affecting my voice. Anyway, I'm absolutely astounded that the PRA request from San Clemente has cost the agency over $1 million. Unfortunately, I don't believe we can charge them for that. They really have done a scorched earth. They are, as Tony said, they are trying to put this agency out of business. And the fact that the congressman and the 2 people in Sacramento did not even have the decency to contact the agency speaks volumes of how prejudiced they are against the agency. So I think I wasn't here when the Englander letter came out, but I think that needs to be included. I think all the points that Tony made need to be included. So I think the staff has done a remarkable job in their response, and I wholeheartedly agree with everything the previous speakers have said. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk?
Director Miller?
Yes, thank you. I had to get back to another screen to unmute myself. When this was brought forward in our briefing, I did not support attaching those documents because I hadn't read them. I don't really have a problem attaching them after they were provided and I got a chance to read them. I do think it's important to know that the grand jury knows what's going on. I do have some issues with our response, however, and I brought this up in our update or our briefing on this. I still think that the language here is pretty harsh. I don't think it's necessary. We actually state at one point the grand jury's perspective that board members, it basically states the limited knowledge, not that they have not been brought up to speed. It's basically saying you don't understand, that the grand jury doesn't understand transportation, therefore shouldn't be talking about this. I don't think making those types of statements are good for this agency. You know, we have some issues there. We're addressing some of the issues that they brought up. We should be talking about that. But my biggest issue is on our very first letter. It's our opening letter that basically says, where is it here? It's important to reiterate that the suggestion by the grand jury that there be an external audit is unwarranted, especially given its own findings. I've been very vocal about this. I don't know why we want to fight this external audit so desperately. We have nothing to hide, nothing. If we can tell them we don't think it's warranted, but if an outside agency would like to come and audit us, I welcome it, because this agency has nothing to hide. We have done nothing wrong. I cannot state that enough. So, and as far as my knowledge, if they find something, then we need to deal with it. But that's my issue with this, and I just think the tenor's a little strong. We need to actually work with the grand jury, not fight them. I understand my other directors' positions. I've never worked with a grand jury before. I haven't had to respond to one of their reports. And so maybe I'm wrong on that, but this seems a little tough. We need to actually tone it down and work with them and address some of the issues that are brought up and let them know what we are doing about it, instead of saying that you don't understand what we do as an agency and therefore you don't really have a right to opine on it. I think that's a bad position for us. And that's basically all I have to say. I mean, I think the staff did do a good job of addressing what was out there. I don't agree with the tenor on it, and I do think we should take that statement out in the opening letter to the judge that we think it's unwarranted, and maybe we leave it in that we think it's unwarranted, but we would welcome the investigation from an outside agency if they're willing to pay for it and do the investigation. I think we should go down that path instead of the path we're on. With that, that's all I have.
All right, next speaker.
Director Stevens.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all the comments that have been made already and all the work that's been done by staff on this response. I think that the response is good, but I do concur with the sentiments of Director Mueller that, you know, sometimes you protest too much and in a response like this. So if I have found in my time as a director that the agency is, fiscally responsible and actually very robust in terms of our financial position, ethically managed at every level. We've done, we did that extensive audit on the consultant issue last year. I'm very proud to be part of this agency. And while I support everything that was said by Director Beal, and I understand his sentiment and his passion, I also think that we should welcome open and transparent scrutiny by the public or anybody else.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Director Heft.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I had to switch. I had to leave for an appointment, so I'm just had to switch from my one phone to the other, so I was making sure. I haven't heard every single comment, but I came back in, so I apologize if I'm repeating something that's already been said. But one of the things that struck me about this grand jury report is that the people that complain about the TCA are constantly, talking about taxpayer money spent. Well, this grand jury was convened on the testimony of 3 people, and it just seems like that's a waste of taxpayer money in general. And I really have a problem with that. And it just seems like the tenor was anything but objective. So if someone would like to speak to that or a follow-up on that, that would be great. But I just feel like this was very, very subjective and not done in a way that was even-handed. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Chair Shea.
Yes, thank you very much. And I appreciate all the comments. I think they're all being very balanced. I think we all at least are in agreement that we do need to follow up and support our staff recommendation and the response to the grand jury. I've served in the city of Irvine. We've probably had 5 or 6 different grand jury reports. So I've had many interviews with the grand jury. This particular interview was very hostile, very aggressive. I've never been in a grand jury that I've been put under such scrutiny. It was amazing understanding there were only 3 people that have been in opposition to the TCA that pushed this forward. So I was very displeased about the interview itself, which took me 2 hours. So putting that aside, I do believe that as an agency, we have nothing to hide. We've been very transparent. This came up about having an outside audit maybe 1.5 years ago, if we remember. And San Clemente at that time and others were saying you need to be investigated, you need to be looked at. We've gone through a very robust review of a new audit firm to bring in new life and new objective opinions by our new auditor. It was suggested that the county would come in and audit us. But after some time, we were told, as I recall, if I'm being correct, the county had no desire to audit us. So we were more than open and willing to have that happen. And it was about 1.5 years ago, as I recall. So this letter by the 3 different Congress people are clearly very political. But again, if there's an agency that wants to come and talk to us that are legitimate and they want to look at our books, I don't see any reason why we're not open to doing that. I would assume our staff could send a letter and follow up and say, look, if you want to give us a call, you're welcome to do so. I know, to answer Tony Beal or Director Beal's comment, I met with Congresswoman Porter and Congressman Arruda right after they were elected. We went with our TCA staff and we met with them for an hour and a half each. I think with Congresswoman Porter, it might have been 2 hours. We brought documents. We answered every question they may have or not have. There were some misconceptions, I think, by one of the Congress people, but we purposely went to their offices and took the time to share with them about what our agency's about our finances, about anything they wanted to know. We were completely open and transparent with them. And we said, if you want any follow-up, you want to come to the agency, you want to take a tour of our roads, we are willing and open to offer that to you. I was in those meetings. I don't recall getting any feedback. Perhaps staff did, and I just wasn't aware of it. I do want to address this continual attack on our agency by San Clemente. When Director Minigar and I took over as chairs a year ago, the one thing we talked about, and I have to compliment Chair Minigar at that time, we said we're going to turn this ship around. We're not going to be wanting to look and maintain very expensive consultants to be doing some political proactive work against any community in this county. We need to be focused on transportation. And all of us agreed. And in last year in July, we cut out our $1.8 million outreach team that we had. We've also had changed out the leadership at TCA and brought in a new CEO, which I don't want to get in any disparaging comments about our former CEO, but we have changed a lot in the agency. I'm trying to see some of the other things that we've done about consolidating, bringing in a new auditor, as I mentioned. We've done a lot. And then, of course, we all voted last March to take alignment 14 off the map. So we showed that we did our homework. We went through CEQA. We realized that alignment would not work. And we did what we needed to do to protect San Clemente and do the right thing. And no matter what we've done in the last year and a half, this continual political attack will not stop. It's just unfair, it's uncalled for, and it really is at a point that I become very, very frustrated, because no matter what I've been trying to do as chair and our board has been trying to do, this political aggression will not stop. And people can call you names all the time. I don't want to deviate too much. I remember my grandmother used to say to me, people can say anything they want about you, but it doesn't make it true. And these attacks are trying to make it true, and it's not. We have wonderful leadership running this organization, all these you wonderful elected officials. You all need to be complimented. I don't know one of you that I would ever say is corrupt, that is trying to hide anything, is trying to do anything to harm this county, to harm this agency, or to set any tone that we are hiding and being manipulative. And I'm getting really tired of this rhetoric and this nonsense. So I am completely supportive of this document from if our board will approve it, these responses to the grand jury. I think they're appropriate. I think what's going on is completely and highly political. And I'm pretty patient about a lot of this stuff that's gone on. I've tried to find solutions. I've tried to make directives as the chair of Foothill to make sure that our communities know, including San Clemente, that we want to work with you, we want to protect your community, and we want to be a collaborative. But it doesn't help, it's not working at all, which is very sad and troubling. So with those comments, I would just say I want to thank our staff for all your hard work. I want to thank every board member, even though at times we disagree. I believe that we all are really doing our darndest to make sure that this is a successful agency. And again, if our CEO needs to write a letter and invite, I didn't even get a copy of this letter from these Congress people that came out yesterday. But if he needs to write a letter to that agency or whoever they sent it to say, look, at our doors open, give me a call, we'll sit down and explain anything, then that's fine. So I'm sorry I'm going over, but I will be supporting this today.
Thank you. Next speaker. Oh, Director or CEO Johnson, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm hearing a consistent theme from some board members regarding our openness and transparency. And I want to make sure the board knows that it was not staff's intent to express that we are unwilling to let somebody else audit us. We were just noting that we felt it was unwarranted and an unnecessary use of tax dollars because over about the last year and a half, We've had 6 independent reviews by different CPA firms and credit rating agencies that all closely scrutinize our financials and our ability to manage this agency. So there have not been any findings there similar to what's stated in the grand jury report. We, of course, can adjust our verbiage around this if that's the board's direction. So we were just highlighting that it's unwarranted based on the facts. But as mentioned by several, we are completely transparent. And if someone wants to allocate their resources to have an audit of TCA, we are going to support that with the board's direction.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Next speaker.
Director Murphy.
Well, good morning. Much of what I would ordinarily say has been said, so I won't repeat it. I think it's important to take as much of the emotion out of it, although it's not an easy task sometimes. And I think that there's a good start on that. The one area that I would suggest is that there is some restatement around the area of an additional audit. I think it's fine to point out the independent reviews and the rest. I would refactor, and I appreciate Samuel mentioning the fact of wordsmithing, if you will, this letter a bit, especially to the judge and all related. And frankly, I would also recommend that we share copies of this with our Congress people that have expressed interest in understanding the agency better and the rest of it. But past that, I appreciate what all of the directors' involvement and active participation in this, and concur with Chair Shea that I believe all of us are working hard to be as transparent and as accurate as possible. And as Director Mueller said, we should always be open to outside review. And I believe we are. And I think it comes down to being very important. Written page doesn't have any emotion, doesn't have any inference, and it's a little like texting. You can text a message and mean it to be lighthearted or mean it to be very specific. And if the words aren't clear, they can be misinterpreted as well as interpreted correctly. And I think that's to the point where we are here. The facts are the facts. Here is the reply. And we're open to more if you want to come and please join us in making sure we're the best we can be. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Director Voigt.
Director Voigt?
Yes, Director Voigt.
Yeah, I don't need to repeat what has already been said, but I think that the TCA has been one of the most scrutinized and reviewed agencies in the County of Orange. I appreciate all the committee members that are here trying to help regional mobility, not only regional mobility for Orange County, but for the state, because we are affecting the flow of traffic on the 5 and the 405 freeway, but what we're doing. And so I think that transparency is good. Move forward. I think that everything's been said already, but I want to thank staff for being transparent. I want to thank the committee members for their service, even though sometimes we disagree. We are here for the good of the public and for the good of the state, because what we do with TCA and the toll agencies and the toll roads that we have, it helps the flow of traffic through the County of Orange, which helps the state of California, because we are a main corridor from north to south. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Director Bartlett.
Great. Thank you. I agree with all of the prior directors' comments. TCA, for a variety of reasons, has been under siege and unfairly based on the political stance and things that are happening out there on the political landscape, and the motivations of some of the individuals who've been engaged against the TCA are really quite unwarranted and unfair. That being said, when we're focusing on the grand jury report, and I just want to reiterate that the Board of Supervisors, we receive copies of every single grand jury report that goes out. And so I've been reviewing these reports now on a consistent basis for, over 6 years. And in the beginning, we thought, oh, there was something on the animal shelter. There must be something to this. And we started looking into things. And I think when people think of the grand jury and the grand jury reports, there's an adage about the internet that says, oh, if it's on the internet, it must be true. Well, the same thing applies to the grand jury reports. The grand jury is just a group of individuals. They've got limited resources, and they get information about things that they should investigate. They're not the height of investigative journalism per se. They don't have the time and resources or the expertise to really do a deep dive into things. They do their best, but they're taking a lot of interviews from individuals to create a grand jury report, and then they basically regurgitate that information and put it out there. So for people out in the public purview to say, oh, well, it's in the grand jury report, therefore their findings must be accurate and their recommendations must be spot on, it's simply not the case. They're taking information based on their interviews. So it's basically, a lot of times it's garbage in, garbage out. And unfortunately, that's been a consistent theme with the grand jury report. So when they talk about, well, the Board of Supervisors ought to have, spend money to get an investigation done of the TCA, well, I can tell you, we're not going to waste taxpayer dollars at the county to pile on with another investigation that's totally unwarranted. So that being said, I appreciate all the comments from the speakers. They are spot on. We need to take a firm stance and not cave to some of these political games that are being played out there. We've got a great agency. We've had audits over and over again. We've come out clean every single time. I think a couple of the recommendations and the report, the grand jury report makes sense. Some of the items that we've already discussed. And I think it's time we've got to put this behind us, move forward, and continue on the great work of the agency. So thank you very much.
Supervisor Bartlett. Next speaker.
Director Ward.
Okay, so it's not going to be a surprise that I am not going to be able to vote to send these answers to the grand jury. Some of my comments that I have already made to staff and to our legal counsel is that I was disappointed that these answers specifically seem to come from our legal counsel, and I think some of the that was addressed in our cover letter. It said that the reason that was is these were mostly legal items. I don't agree with that. I don't think they were legal items. I think, as Director Bartlett said, it's the grand jury. They're asking questions and they're expecting an answer to the questions. And I don't think we answered all of them. There's a lot of statements in here that are made that I can't agree to. I can't agree that TCA in the past has not gone outside their joint exercise of powers. I think they did that a few times in the study. And, it's great that everyone says the study's over now, but it doesn't change what actions were taken during that study. And specifically the 73, which is supposed to be completely constructed except for widening or future improvements in its existing boundaries, was slated to be extended and put on I-5. And that caused a great deal of problems with OCTA and the other cities down there. It would have again widened San Juan Capistrano again after widening, and widened San Clemente so much that
screwed up every single one of them.
Excuse me, I'm listening to someone else. Can you turn your mic off, please? San Clemente would have been widened so much, and I don't know if the directors were ever aware of this, that we would have lost businesses. The only market that we had in South San Clemente would have been completely gone. It was a complete take. those comments, that destruction was never brought up at a meeting to even consider this, but it was brought up when this agency looked at almost the same corridor as the central corridor as what they just looked at again. And TCA said, we can't do that. It's too destructive. It's going to cost too much money. And yet again, you studied it in the last 5 years and put San Clemente, San Juan, and Dana Point through a lot of hell for, I think, for nothing. Some of the findings say that has a lot to do with one of the items that I would say that you did not answer the grand jury was on the point of the MOU with SCAG. And they were asking questions on that. And apparently the grand jury did look at the MOU and did look at our contract, and they made comments on it. And they also knew, it says in the report, that they were aware of a letter to OCTA advising OCTA that TCA no longer wanted to build the promised lanes that were agreed upon in that 2001 MOU. And I believe that letter, I'm looking for it. I think that letter was sent to OCTA recently, like in 2019. I don't remember the board ever taking that up and ever being notified that we had a 2001 MOU with SCAG and involving OCTA that we had promised lanes we were supposed to add, and we no longer wanted to do that. I don't believe that ever came to the board. So, you know, things like that, I think are just not accurate answers to the grand jury. And the other comments that this came from 3 people, don't know who they are, and that should have been given greater scrutiny, and why did the grand jury embark on this? I think that's completely irrelevant. The grand jury, the most important question here is that we're facing today is whether we're supposed to trust an independent, nonpartisan grand jury who's asking questions, or we're going to trust TCA staff and our consultants. And I think it's pretty evident that some of the responses are coming from consultants, and I think our staff feels a little attacked, and that's how some of the responses are coming out. But the grand jury is a nonpartisan group. It's apolitical, and it has no agenda, yet our response says that it has an agenda. They don't have a financial stake, and they have no other purpose than to investigate and report. And that's what they're trying to do, and they're waiting for our answers. Some of these findings state, even though we say we're following our MOU and we're in compliance, what we're doing is the average daily occupancy of the vehicles, AVO, every year. And yet I've heard every year we're not meeting those. We're just not meeting those in what we see in our annual reports. But I was not aware of the MOU, or that the board, or I'm sorry, that the agency staff told OCTA they don't wish to do the lanes anymore. But it does seem like some of the answers in here, TCA staff is saying we disagree with the findings of the grand jury because we still have lanes that we have to build. And I think that goes back to the MOU, in my opinion. So I think we're answering it both ways here. We're following the MOU, or we don't have anything to add. You know, I don't know which it is anymore. Finding number 10 had to do with the MOU signed, and I don't think that answers the question. Finding 11 goes to our contracts and hiring consultants, and TCA answer is that they had to execute scopes of work that are approved by the boards, and that the consultants had to inform the cities of their findings. And I'm going to say that San Clemente, as one of the most affected cities, did not feel informed at all. In fact, it was exactly the opposite. I think it was tried to hide the ball, and it did not tell us what was going on or where we were, and something that was supposed to be a process. that was actually not a Caltrans process because TCA wasn't even following that. So I do think that some of what they said, TCA has gone into self-perpetuation mode. We're not doing anything unique that couldn't be done by OCTA. And I think some of the reasons we gave that we have to still be around may not be true, that it is true that OCTA or Caltrans could add to the lanes that we've already built. It's mentioned that the skeletal system of the 133, 241, 261, and those are all built, and the 73, excuse me. And that's the first time I've heard that ever, that TCA has said that the skeletal system is actually built. So I'm happy that I heard that in this response. The grand jury did find instances when the TCA staff acted on an issue and after the fact requested board approval. That wasn't answered in the comments. I am concerned that the board wishes, instead of making this between TCA and the grand jury, the board wants to make this between, again, San Clemente as a member city and the rest of the TCA. That is a concern here. Mr. Beal, you have been told by me that that proposal was not our contract, and yet you still continue to use it and want to use it as evidence. So you're going to do that, and that's fine. I just want to state for the rest of the board that I made that comment and told you that it was not our contract and not our scope of work, and not what you think you saw in those in all the last 5 years is not from the city of San Clemente. I would never, as an elected official, go after any part of our the public's interest and say that they are not important, and certainly not ever say that the grand jury should never take it up. I think it doesn't matter if one person said something. If the grand jury decided to investigate it, we should not be questioning that. I still keep hearing that it's unwarranted, and we've done 6 audits. But I would remind you that I think it was in 2019 that Director Bain asked for an investigation of Venture Strategic and other consultants that we heard were doing political proactive work. And Chair Shea just commented that the chairs, worked to get rid of those contracts, but that is what was occurring. And I think that's what an external audit would probably show. But Director Bain did ask for actually the scope of that work and what Venture Strategic was doing and the other consultants. And I would remind the board that when I was on in 2018-19, the board itself asked for the scope of work of all the consultants to come to us before we voted for the budget that year. And we asked for that, and it was never brought back to the board. And we asked for it because consultants were actually attending our board meetings and talking to us directly. They were sub-consultants, and we wanted to know who those people were, who were coming up and talking to us and saying that they were for TCA doing this process. They should have identified themselves, and we should have known who was working as sub-consultants for the many millions of dollars that we were giving out in contracts. My last comment that I've already stated for the record is I asked for the board to consider an investigation, a formal investigation into a contract where a board member, it's mentioned in the grand jury report, may have had a personal interest in that contract. And I have been denied that and it has never come back to the board. So I am not going to be able to vote for this. I think it misstates and mischaracterizes the true intent of what the grand jury is trying to do. I'm certainly going to give them the benefit of the doubt and the respect that I think they deserve. I also think that our 2 state elected officials that have called for an audit, they deserve respect. And I think that the 3 Congress members that have now written a letter, they deserve respect also. And this is the 2nd time the grand jury has looked at TCA and issued a report. My comment to staff was I was hoping that this would be a board-led response And I'm seeing that it's not. I think it's far from a board response. I hope you listen to what some of the directors have said as far as the tone. But it seems like everyone is ready to vote for this and say that the grand jury responses are 100% correct. San Clemente is not going to be able to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Johnson, to respond to one or two of your points, and then we will go to the next speaker.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your comments, Director Ward. It's not my intent to provide a rebuttal to the several comments you made, but there were some key ones that I want to make sure that the entire board is clear on. In terms of us working with our legal counsel to develop the response, I felt that was important and appropriate because most of the grand jury's findings and recommendations relate to our authority, our statutory authority, and whether we were in compliance with the work, with those statutes, with the work that we were conducting. Staff did not view the grand jury's findings or recommendations as questions. I don't think they were posed in that regard, so we provided responses accordingly. And to be clear, there were no consultants involved with crafting those responses. These were all done by TCA staff, again in consultation with our attorneys. And the last point I'll make sure everyone is clear on is our MOU with SCAG is in good standing. While the grand jury cited that we were not in compliance, we have received no such communication from SCAG, and I believe the grand jury may not have had accurate information as to what that MOU pertains to.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Director Wagner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Let me start by agreeing wholeheartedly with what Joe Mueller said a couple of days ago on this call. I think he's absolutely right. The tone of this response is atrocious. I think the contempt that the agency is showing through its response is noteworthy. I mean, it even bled into the staff report where we were told, and I wrote it down because it struck me as so absurd, that this was generated by 3 alleged complaints. Well, what in the world is the word alleged doing in there? They were genuine complaints from constituents of those of us on the board. And the answer that, well, there's only 3 of them, and therefore what? We still have to take seriously the complaints. The grand jury still has to take seriously the complaints. The idea that in our letter, as acknowledged by the grand jury, the report was initiated due to 3 citizen complaints, I find that a appalling statement. The question is the accuracy of the grand jury report. It's utterly irrelevant. And it, frankly, to me, suggests an annoyance at public oversight that we would even hit that in the opening letter, you know, much less make it a subject of the staff report to us and some of these director comments. I'm just sorry that we have to respond to people who are complaining about the way we're doing our public duty, but it does seem to me that is incumbent upon us. This agency is under harsh scrutiny right now. It doesn't matter to me that it's coming from the local communities. I mean, it is, and we need to reflect that, and we need to not just say, well, that's irrelevant, and kind of blow it off. Oh, there's only 3 of them. It's not only 3 of them. The local community we hear from all the time, local elected leaders we hear from all the time. We may disagree with them, but we do ourselves no favor complaining about them. And now we're hearing from members of Congress. So we're asked how many members of Congress actually called us or actually had meetings with us, and the answer is none. And the question and the answer, again, are entirely irrelevant. we don't have a right to say to the Congress people, you guys aren't doing your job right. You should have met with us. And therefore, again, therefore what? We're going to blow off the grand jury. We're going to take a tone that is unhelpful. It is utterly irrelevant, all of those issues. And what we're doing is deflecting. We're not dealing with legitimate issues that came out of the grand jury report. You know, the idea that we're complaining the grand jury investigated us, I shared Mueller's position. Everybody can investigate us if they want. You know, the grand jury has a legitimate role to play in this county. Indeed, the grand jury is an institution that goes back to the founding of this nation. And for us to say, you know, you never should have bothered looking at us and use that to justify our response is appalling. Our letter, it takes exception to the audit, the external audit request. Well, you know, that's not a bad suggestion. We've done a whole lot of internal audits, which means to me that we think there's at least some fire there that all this smoke is pointing to. And yet, despite our internal efforts, we've still been greatly embarrassed by the LA Times article and the scrutiny of the Corliss contract. And for us to complain about these bits and pieces of the grand jury investigation is tone deaf and fails to recognize that this agency, even though it could walk on water, still needs to answer to the public about why it's doing what it's doing. And I don't think this agency walks on water. I would like to find more time to go over this again, to fix the tone of this letter and this response to the grand jury. The grand jury doesn't deserve it. The public doesn't deserve it. And it is, to my mind, us sort of whistling past the graveyard and ignoring some very, very real concerns that have been rightly addressed to us.
Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Director Wagner. Of course, if it's the board's direction, we can take a look at our tone. It was not our intent to dismiss the 3 citizen complaints, but as we announced in the briefings, we felt it was important that the board recognize the audience that this report is going to. Is not just to the grand jury, it's to the overall public. So we wanted to make sure we quoted what the grand jury cited in terms of the alleged 3 citizen complaints to make sure the public didn't have a sense that this is an overwhelming concern by a significant majority of Orange County residents. In terms of making sure we focus on responding to the grand jury's findings and recommendations. We did spend significant time on that to make sure we did address those factual components. However, again, this is the board's document, and if the board would like us to make some adjustments, we can take that direction and try and figure that out. I would just remind the board that our time to submit our formal response is rather short. It is due by the 27th of this month.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Director Penaloza.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to also say kind of, you know, a lot of what's already been said. I just want to show my appreciation and be thankful to staff, who I personally believe that the grand jury report response is very well written. I have no issue with the tone at all. I think, you know, it needs to be said, and the way the letter's written needs to be heard and perceived, because it's something that, you know, unfortunately we had to go through this. We've been audited, we've been investigated, and at the same time, we have a duty to protect the integrity of the agency and the integrity of the members of this board. And like some of my colleagues mentioned earlier, you know, I don't believe that anyone in the agency is trying to be corrupt or any of the board members are corrupt at all. So I would just want to show appreciation and be thankful to staff. I'm happy with the response. And I mean, that I just want to also reiterate a lot of what was previously said, not by the last two directors, but I just have to agree. And I think everything that's been said is very well put together, and happy to move forward.
Thank
And
you.
that is it.
Thank you.
Vice Chair O'Neill?
Yes, thank you. You know, I think the statutory framework for the TCA is admittedly complex because it was novel at the time the legislation was created, but that doesn't excuse the grand jury from, you know, ensuring that its findings and report accurately reflect the legal nature of the toll roads. And the TCA budget is fairly complex due to its debt structure, but that also doesn't excuse the grand jury from its responsibility to review bond covenants in depth to ensure the TCA is complying with all its applicable requirements, which it is. Both TCA boards have made real progress on debt repayment, including reducing total debt owed and seeing bond ratings increased. Both TCA boards have adopted a comprehensive debt management policy this year that prioritizes that exact debt repayment. And I've been abundantly clear that I would certainly like to see the San Joaquin board pay down its debt quickly and retire the agency forever. But it appears that certain groups of people are urging the specter of investigation as a weapon right now instead of a legitimate transparency tool. And a city's frustration with Foothill Eastern Board has lumped in the San Joaquin board as well. I was surprised to read that 2017 Englander report, which is board member Beal mentioned, cites Sun Tzu's The Art of War, calls the TCA the enemy, and highlights their willingness to, quote, take a kill shot. Some of our local freshman federal representatives have apparently taken the same approach in their press release that was issued yesterday. My local congressman has never reached out to me to discuss the TCA's budget or financial debt repayment, which, with respect, does matter that they didn't reach out. He has never once asked whether I accepted any payment for my time on the board, despite seeming to make that an issue. And for the record, I donate what I receive here to charity. And I'd ask aloud whether he has spoken to any member of the San Joaquin board about TCA in the last year, because certainly hasn't called me. And again, that matters. But it's election season, so I suppose it's time for press releases. So today we're responding to an attempted kill shot. And in our time of political turmoil, violence, there's no place for such rhetoric directed at a board of elected officials.
Next speaker, please.
Director Chafee?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I would like to note that first, there is a new grand jury that's been impaneled. This is a product of the previous one. And it seemed to me when I read the report, as well as some others that came to the Board of Supervisors, they tend to be a little bit light on the facts. It's like you hear a complaint and you throw it against the wall to see if it sticks. But at the same time, if they don't have a factual basis for their position, it's difficult really to respond. And so I think, speaking of accountability, the grand jury itself needs some accountability for its work. I appreciate what staff has done. I think they did a very good job in responding on the various one item at a time matters. And I do feel for staff because I feel staff has been abused by all of this process, and that's more important to me than me personally. I can hide up north. I don't have to get into the middle of some of these things. But I think if I may respond to a couple of things. We talk about the transparency and the various audits we'd had. A little wordsmithing might bring that out a little bit more. I think perhaps an attachment listing the various audits and the credit rating investigations we've had in an attachment with some detail would help bring out the transparency and the work we've done to make that happen. There was initially in the very beginning a comment about what do we attach, a so-called Englander letter and report. I would take a cautious route because I don't think it tells a story by itself. And unless we have more to flesh that out, I would not add that. I think that makes it a little bit too hard to comprehend. Rather, I think in maybe closed session, I'd like to ask our legal counsel what discovery we've had about that. Maybe trying to get some of the emails and correspondence and even phone calls that this firm had with council members prior to the contract even being initiated. We bring out the intent that's going on. So I don't feel quite ready to unveil that as part of this report. I'd like to try if that can locate a little bit and de-escalate and see if we can't work through some of this stuff through the pending litigation. It seems to me these kinds of things would have a bearing on payment of attorney's fees, in which I think we are entitled to because of what we've been put through. So I'd like to see more work put into those documents and what surrounded them and the actual things that happened. That to me, it would make a stronger case, and perhaps at a later time, if it is attached, then I think how you do it is important. I think the beginning in the letter, you would probably note something about the war being waged, if I heard the words right, of public antagonism, but you don't need to go to that. You have to explain why you're attaching it. I think that last item in the response there, item 9 or 10, is a place to go into more detail. But I think it's not enough of the flesh around those things to unveil at this time, but I would like to see further investigation into that. I think it has more useful purposes. In the meantime, I don't see any point in attaching them. It's just not enough there to bring out, if I may use the word, the agony that the agency has had. So with that, I support the staff drafting, with the exception of some minor wordsmithing that I think can make it a little bit better. And so with that, I thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Supervisor Chafee. Next speaker.
Director James.
Good afternoon. I'm profoundly disturbed, and I find it unbelievably disconcerting, the comments made and directed at the citizens of San Clemente. I can't go into some of the things said in closed session when we reviewed the grand jury report, but I can say I walked away really disappointed, and I couldn't believe the angst there is directed at our city. Going back to the grand jury, I don't know how many grand jury members there were, 15, 20. I don't know how long they were impaneled, but probably weeks or several months. The framers of our Constitution thought it was necessary to put mention grand juries in our Fifth Amendment. Maybe some of these other directors don't believe in our Constitution, don't believe in our Bill of Rights. But I think the framers knew what they were doing. And so let's look at that grand jury. These were not citizens of San Clemente. There might have been a citizen or two of San Clemente in there, but this is randomly selected individuals across the county with no axe to grind against the TCA. And this is where they ended up. Maybe they ended up in the right place. Maybe they ended up in the wrong place. I don't really know. But it appears that the enemy here is the city of San Clemente, its citizens, and these randomly selected people from across our county. The contempt, the anger, the hate, even the hatred I've heard from some of the directors today makes me want to dig my heels in. Will make our constituents in San Clemente want to dig their heels in. Many of us, to include myself, look at Route 22 as nothing more than a Trojan horse. Well, you need to convince us otherwise. I heard Rocky Chavez, Bill Brogue, Pat Bates attacked for being for introducing anti-TCA legislation. Oh no, they didn't introduce anti-TCA legislation. They introduced legislation to protect the citizens of San Clemente. I really thought with the resignation of Mike Cramen, we had made progress. But then I read where he took a job with one of our highest paid consultants, HNTB. Well, that looks remarkably like the swamp to many of us in San Clemente. It looks remarkably like the swamp to folks across this county. It's like general officers and political appointees leaving the Department of Defense and going to work for Boeing or Lockheed. That's what it looks like. It's time to reform the TCA, to pay off our bonds and make the toll roads free and go out of business. You know, this is a good time for us to take stock of what the TCA is and what it's going to be in the future. I submit we need to be paying off bonds and making the roads free, and this organization needs to go out of business. There was no reason, absolutely no reason for this organization to oppose Pat Bates's SB 1373. All it was doing was protecting our open space in San Clemente. Imagine if an organization wanted to destroy open space in other cities across the county, or not even one, but there was a risk that they would destroy that open space. You elected officials of those cities would be raising hell, and that's what Director Ward and I are doing. I really appreciate the words of Director Ward. No one comes here more prepared than Kathy Ward. Additionally, I thank Joe Mueller for the things he had to say. And for Supervisor Bartlett, for Supervisor Wagner, Director Wagner, I should say, thank you for the words you said. I really wish that this organization could understand the angst that you create in our city. We don't trust you. We simply don't trust you. I'd like to make a couple other points. If this organization was a publicly traded company, we would have to have a fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. We don't have that. We would have to have we'd have to have an audit committee in which board members selected the auditors, not management. You know, so we look at these different things and it concerns us. So I just think it's time that we sit down, we take another look at the grand jury report and understand these were disinterested people that came up with these conclusions. Maybe those conclusions were right, or maybe they were wrong. But we need to understand that based on what they were looking at, based on how the agency operates, based on some of the directors who get it, actually some of these directors that we have get involved in San Clemente politics, get very heavily involved in San Clemente politics, and find candidates that will be nothing more than lackeys for them for a vote as it relates to the TCA. Believe me, we're aware of that and we know who they are. Finally, I'd like to say the thing I find really disturbing is the grand jury statement. I'm going to read that. The TCA board member acted favorably on a TCA contract with a firm he or she had a personal or political interest in. We're all suspect here. Who is that? Who is this board member? I suspect many of you know who this board member is. And certainly that board member knows who he or she is. And we know what contract it is. That board member should raise his or her hand and say, they're talking about me and this is what it's about. Consequently, as a result, we're at the city of San Clemente, we're asking for an investigation by the DA into this. If DA Spitzer has to recuse himself, which I assume he will have to, we would be looking at going to the state attorney general, or maybe even the public corruption unit of the Department of Justice. I am really disturbed that we're looking at this one statement and ignoring it as a group. It's insanity. It's not the way we need to operate as stewards of this organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and I'll ask the CEO to please provide a comment.
Thank you for your comments, Director James. I just wanted to highlight a couple of key aspects for the board in regards to us having an ethics hotline or whistleblower protection. As outlined in your administrative code, that is established and in place. It's part of our internal audit function, which we did recently elevate and ensure our manager internal audits had direct contacts with the board leadership. So that is in place. And in terms of having an audit committee, that is one aspect of our finance and investment committee. All our audit functions go through that. And as most of the board members will know, we did increase our transparency and accountability for our audit functions by going through each committee with our internal audit plans for this fiscal year. And that plan was recently adopted by both boards.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Director Chamberlain.
Yes, thank you. I will try and be brief because a lot has been said already. I do think that it may be appropriate for staff to consider adjusting the initial tone of the letter. Although I haven't had any specific issues with it. I have heard there's a number of board members that have. So I would be open to adjustments if that's the direction of the board. I do like the direct responses that staff had prepared in the matrix. I think they're very factual, and I want to thank staff for putting in the hard work and the effort to get it done to that point. I would support modifying language on the external audit component to indicate that this board has never opposed an external audit of TCA, and that we wouldn't be opposed to anything in the future. However, this can be accomplished if the Transportation Inspector General reaches out regarding the recent letter from the congressional members that sent it to Rhonda Kraft office asking her to look into TCA. So that can be accomplished two ways. That's all I have, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Director Connors.
Thank you. It's complicated when you come late in the procedure because many people have said many things and there are things that come to my mind. I just want to make a few comments in order. I appreciate the sense of outrage that was expressed by a number of board members, and I fully expect that the staff shared that sense too, that they were under attack, that we have been under attack, that we've spent $1 million responding to freedom to document requests, that there are regular accusations coming our way. All that being said, I also think that our public posture is better served by, as a number of people have said, by stating that we are a public agency and we are always open to oversight. What I think the sense about this report is that the grand jury received a complaint, it interviewed the complainants, it interviewed some city officials, and then it began interviewing TCA folks, and then COVID came along and it stopped its work. And based on an incomplete investigation, it published a report that, as Samuel said, was not filled with questions, but was filled with findings. And I think that's part of our frustration. Nonetheless, if you guys can walk a razor's edge between being outraged and softening your tone, I think it's a good idea. And I think by attaching the San Clemente documents, that in some sense provides part of our outrage explanation as to how we are being attacked. With regard to the governing, and also as far as the outrage is concerned, you should remember that this, as was pointed out, this document is going back to a new grand jury. So these are not the guys who made the findings. With regard to the unnamed board member making a vote on an unnamed contract with an unnamed firm in which that board member had an interest, I'm curious as to why that person hasn't been named. I'm not asking that person to stand up here and name themselves. I just think this kind of an allegation, if they've got the goods, they should say it. If they don't got the goods, then they shouldn't say it. Lastly, I want to make reference to the issue of reading the governing documents. I'm more than happy to read the governing documents, and I'm more than happy if we put in something that says, sure, we'll all read the governing documents. I just want to point out that that doesn't mean very much. Statutory language and construction of statutory language is a very delicate thing. And words don't always mean what they mean if you're having a conversation over coffee. They mean what they've been adjudged to mean in other statutes. They mean what they mean in contexts different from ours. And there are statutes which may conflict with certain of these interpretations or may conflict with the straight language itself. And unless you are a lawyer experienced in the reading of statutes and have done the research in the interpretation of this particular governing documents, I don't think that a layperson's opinion on what these documents say and what they mean is worth very much. But in the spirit of, sure, we'll be glad to do that, I'll be glad to do that. As an example, I'll just point out that I've heard 4 or 5 times today that the purpose of the agency and the governing documents say we're supposed to build the roads, pay off the bonds, and go out of business. And I think it's been pretty well established that our governing documents do not say we are required to go out of business once the bonds are paid off. And that's one example of how people think they know what the statute says and it doesn't. So I thank staff for all your hard work. I thank everybody on the board, the ones who have expressed outrage and the ones who have asked for softening. And it's a good job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Director Connors. Next speaker, please.
Director Munzing.
Okay, I'll make mine brief. A little worn out today, I apologize. I fully support Tony Beal. I think Director Beal was on point, as well as Mayor O'Neill on their points, is that, and I do think we need to attach, for context, all of the Englander documents that we can find, very underhanded, very, as they said, art of war. And we have been absolutely under attack. We're trying to play nice. We're a public agency. We're trying to be fully transparent. And as they said, they're out for, politics of personal destruction on many of us, individually as well as collectively. So we're trying to be on the up and up and play nice. And to hear the San Clemente council members, after spending $1 million to attack this agency, to play, shock at our response is insulting at best. So I'm fully supportive of Director Beal, and I support the letter. I, at this point, do not believe it needs to be softened, but if that's the decision of the board as a whole, that's fine. But when somebody's coming at you with war, sometimes you need to push back somewhat harshly. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Munzing. And next speaker, please.
Vice Chair Puckett. Vice Chair Puckett.
He's on mute. Yep, I'm sorry there. I'm sorry about that. I was on mute. Uh, I have been on this board for 7.5 years. I'm extremely proud of the work of the TCA. I'm extremely proud to call myself a member of the board of TCA. I fully support the proposed response. I think the response that was made, the comments that were made by Chair Shea, Supervisor Bartlett, and Director Beal were very succinct, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. And I just want to say it's about time. We need to do this. Thank you. We need the response.
Thank you, Director Puckett. Next speaker, please.
Director Minigar.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Well, in my 2-hour meeting with the grand jury, I responded to their questions, issues, and concerns to the best of my knowledge and ability. And I'm very proud of our organization's fiscal responsiveness, robust reviews of public issues and concerns, maintaining transparency at all time, and last but certainly not least, ethical responsiveness. Now, with regard to the letter from our Congress people, well, I had 2 meetings with Congresswoman Katie Porter. I had 3 meetings with Congressman Harley Rouda, a total of 5. 2 of my meetings were along with Foothill Eastern Chair Shea and TCA's top management being present. I have personally offered to Congresswoman Katie Porter and Congressman Harley Rouda to have one-on-one meeting when I was the chair of San Joaquin Hills to discuss any issues and respond to them accordingly. So I'm in support of the majority of the board members with regard to the response to this item. So I wanted to keep it short and to the point. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Minigar. Next speaker.
Chair Kelly.
Oh, okay, it's my turn. I am glad that I got to hear from everyone, and I will just make a few brief comments myself. First of all, I am in support of the document before us. I think that it needs to be very clear, and it is. I had kept hearing things about the Englander proposal, and I didn't know what it was. And because I've only been on this board for 1.5 years, and it came out in earlier. So I did ask that would be sent to all of the board members, because many of us have joined since prior to that Englander proposal and San Clemente contract. I do think it's a very important piece of the puzzle that needs to be attached to our report. I will just say that he does quote in his proposal Sun Tzu's The Art of War, which is a book that many of us are familiar with. He talks about, I'm going to read just one of them, Lesson 6. The quality of decision is like the well-timed swoop of a falcon, which enables it to strike and destroy its victim. At EKA, this means that having a well-thought-out timetable enables us to be offensive in our activities and be prepared to take a kill shot when the opportunity is presented. They have been after us. This is a kill shot. We have had public records requests, which is also in his proposal, a recommendation to do plenty of public records requests. He recommends antagonism towards boards of directors within their home cities, which has been done. And I believe that this public, or this report of the grand jury came as a result of the Englander strategies and tactics. So I would like to include that. I will note that we have had some requests for some softening language, and just remind everyone that this response is due by September 27th. And if we can come to a conclusion today, then we will be in good shape on getting that in on time. So as we consider a motion, we will we'll listen to recommendations on whether we are comfortable with allowing the staff to take into account our comments and softening that, or if we would like the cover. It seems to be mainly the cover letter that is the focus here. Yeah. So I would first like to ask for a motion from Foothill East Board. We have to make these motions separately. We will hear from Foothill East, and then we will hear from San Joaquin Hills. And they do need to be concurrent. They need to be in step with each other. So let's first have a motion and second from Foothill East.
This is Peggy Huang. I'll make the motion to adopt the letter as written with the attachment for with the Englanders report or RFP.
Thank you.
Puckett, second.
There's a motion and a second by Director Huang made the motion. Director Puckett made the second. And I will ask the clerk to do a roll call vote of the Foothill Eastern.
Chair Shea.
Sorry, they're calling the vote. I gotta call you down or talk later about it.
Chair Shea. Chair Shea, I believe you're on mute. Vice Chair Puckett.
Yes.
Director Bartlett.
Yes.
Director Beal.
I unmuted, sorry. It was yes.
Okay. Director Beal.
My apologies. Will you clarify what you're asking the vote for?
The motion was to approve the document as written and include the Englander report and the RFP.
And Englander documents.
Sorry.
Documents and
Right. And of course, as was suggested earlier, directors, if the board does decide that we should attach those documents, staff will make some adjustments to the language. And we did also hear that we should adjust some other aspects of the language around the audit.
although the motion was as written.
Okay, yeah,
The motion is for the letter as written.
that's true. So I apologize. So you want to go ahead and restate what the motion was?
So, okay, so the current motion that we have before us is to approve the letter as written, including the Englander documents and the RFP. And that's all that we have for this motion.
All right. Beal is a yes vote.
Director Chafee?
I would like to include what our CEO just suggested, the adjustment to the language and how do you introduce those documents, I think is important. You don't just attach them. So if the motion would include some adjustment to language so it makes sense to attach them and introduce them correctly, then I would be a yes.
That is a good point, I'm sorry, Director Wong?
I'm
Are
not.
you-
I'm in support of Director Chafee's clarification if it such introductory statements would be necessary, but to introduce the attachment.
Well taken point. And the seconder?
Yes, I
Director
agree.
Puckett?
I agree.
Okay, thank you, Director Chafee.
Yes, then my vote is an aye. With that clarification, I'm an aye.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair, point of order.
I think you have just changed the motion in the middle of a vote. I don't believe that's appropriate. If Director Chafee would like to make a substitute motion, I don't know how we stop the vote right now, but I think it's too late for the substitute as we're working on this vote. I'd like some clarification on that.
I think I was just trying to clarify what had been proposed. I don't think the substance has changed.
But, that was not the motion on the floor, and you're in the middle of a vote.
Well,
the motion was to accept it as written, including those documents. We're in the middle of a vote. So I'm not sure, I'm not saying we can't do this, or I'm just saying we need to do it right.
Can the
But we
maker
need
of
to
the
go back
motion
and
withdraw?
start the vote all over again. Just start the vote all over again with the accepted amended motion.
Okay, the maker of the motion may withdraw the motion at this point and can make a new motion.
Point of order, I don't believe a maker of a motion, Mrs. Wagner, can withdraw it in the middle of a vote.
Oh, Robert, let's just vote it.
Okay, we are going to complete this vote. We will complete this vote, and as the signers on the letter, which is me and Chair Shea, we may add a note clarifying why the attachment is made.
But Madam Chair, if we could, because I do understand what is being suggested. A motion was amended. It was approved by the maker and the second. I think you need to go back and start your vote again. So I know that I voted on the amended motion. So if I could just suggest that, just start at the beginning again with all of us, because 3 or 4 of us voted for the original motions that had not been amended. So I think you would fix it just to start back through the team again, if you could do that.
And I'm going to ask General Counsel to comment on the parliamentary procedure here.
But once we've started the vote, we need to complete the vote. What we can then do is move to reconsider the vote if we want to change it.
Okay, so we are going to finish this vote as it was stated. And once this vote is completed, we may hear a reconsideration to add the language that was suggested by Director Chafee.
A person who voted in favor of the original motion is the one who can vote to reconsider. So
Correct.
People who think there should be a reconsidered motion should not then therefore automatically vote no on this one.
Right.
All right. So I'll begin now with Director Chafee.
Aye.
Director Wong.
Aye.
Director Kelly.
Yes.
Director Crane. Director Crane.
Star six.
Yeah, Director Crane, I believe you're on mute. Director Miller.
No.
Director Murphy.
Can you repeat the current motion on the floor? Because I still think there's a lack of clarity here. Is this the original motion without modification that we're voting on today?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, then my vote is no. I want to look for some change.
Director Penaloza.
Yes.
Director Taylor.
Yes.
Director Voigt. Director Voigt. Director Wagner.
No.
Director Ward.
Sorry, no.
Okay. Director Crane. by Director Voigt.
I hit that hit *6 to clear it because it's the only way you can get back off mute.
Okay. Well, the current vote stands as the motion passes 9 in favor, noting the absence of Director Kring and Director Voigt, and the no votes of Director Miller, Director Murphy, Director Wagner, and Director Ward.
Actually, this is Kring. My vote is an aye. Kring is,
Got it. We got it. Thank you.
10 in favor.
Thank you. 10 in favor.
Can I ask, at this point, can I ask for reconsideration? Do we go back to the vote and adopt the amended language, please?
Let's hear from General Counsel, please.
Needs to be two-step process. First, you vote to reconsider, and that vote needs a second and an affirmative vote, and then a new motion can be made.
So I'm asking to vote to have a reconsideration.
Is there a second?
I will second Director Huang.
Wagner.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to reconsider that vote, and we'll do the roll call again.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Aye.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kring, Director Kring,
aye.
there you go. Okay.
Awful.
Director Miller,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Aye.
Why would everybody?
Director Penaloza,
Point of clarification, so the motion is to reconsider the previous vote?
correct.
Yes, and Director Penaloza, it is because there is an interest in inserting language as to why the attachment, the Englander attachments will be made. It's an adjustment to the letter.
But to be clear, this vote is not to make that adjustment. This vote is merely to vote to reconsider, and then, if possible, make a motion to make that adjustment.
No.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt, Director Wagner,
Aye.
Director Ward,
Aye.
Director Voigt. Vote passes 13 in favor, 1 no vote by Director Penaloza, and the absence of Director Voigt.
The vote passes for reconsideration. I will now entertain a motion. Oops, hold on. The General
Should we
Counsel.
consider, so we don't have to go through this again, if there are any other modifications? For example, do we want to modify the language regarding the audit in addition to some explanatory language regarding the attachments? Just so everything gets captured
Okay.
in this next motion, if that's the board's pleasure.
Okay, and we had heard some interest in modifying the language on the audit. And I think we captured those sentiments fairly well in our discussion. So Chair Shea, I believe, had wanted to make this reconsidered motion or the new motion.
Yes. Well, it is to adopt what Supervisor or Director Chafee brought forward, that the attachments need to have better clarification of why they're being attached. And if I understand his sentiment, that was the only change that was being added to the original motion.
Did you want?
I think General Counsel has brought up another point, that there was
Okay.
some sentiment to make the audit language more powerful. I would include that if that's the sentiment of the rest of the board. If it's simply to add clarifying language with respect to the Englander documents being attached, I'm fine with that too.
Chair Shea, would you like to include modifying slightly the language of the audit, the paragraph about the audit as
Well, actually, Director Wong brought up the motion. I'm fine with her motion, but I am fine with supporting the modification that Director Chafee brought. I do think there needs to be modified language that makes it much clearer why we're attaching these documents. And if that's the case, I think that would be the sentiment of what I think the original motion was about. But I think we should turn to Director Wong if she would want to clarify that, because that was her original motion. Is that appropriate?
Director Wong?
I'm sorry. What was the question? What's exactly the question is? About the motion?
Well, you made the original motion,
Correct.
and then it was modified and amended by Director Chafee, but we had to go back and reconsider. Are you still at a point that you want to move forward with your original motion and just take the modification to the attached documents? Or is there some other motion you want to make that the attorney suggesting to change language in the audit document itself?
Oh,
No, I'm sorry. Let me clarify what our attorney said, is that at this point, we may wish to, since we're doing a reconsideration and we would like to add clarifying language about why the Englander materials are being attached, would we also like to slightly change the information in the letter about the audit? And that would be according to the comments that we've fielded today about those audit comments.
Yes, as previously stated, I think Director Chafee's suggestion that we add the language as an introductory language for stating why we want to we are including the attachment. I am fine with that. That sounds very reasonable. And in fact, is probably needed rather than just attaching without explanation. And if it's if we need to tinker the language in order to make those to soften the tones or anything to make the letter more presentable, I think certainly legal counsel can write that language a lot better than we can. So I am fine with that. Those suggestions.
Yeah.
Hold on one moment, CEO Johnson.
So Madam Chair, I think this is what we're hearing from the various board comments is that the motion is to approve the responses that staff has prepared with verbiage modifications to reflect comments regarding the audit and inclusion of the Englander attachments.
Does that capture your intent, Director Huang?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so Chair Shea, actually, did you wish to make that motion, Chair Shea, or are you kicking it back to Director Wong?
I think Director Wong should do it, but the problem I have is what are you going to change? We've had multiple comments in regard to language and direction and thought. And so how do we, I mean, I'm fine, giving it over to Director Wong, but I would suggest we be pretty clear what changes you're making, because we've had some very aggressive comments made today and some very strongly supporting staff, some very in opposition. So what languages are you going to change in the letter?
The suggested changes had to do with the paragraph about the audit and stating that we are a public agency, we're always open to scrutiny, and just some minor tweaks to that paragraph that would just clarify that we're transparent, we're open to any audit that would wish to be done.
Okay, I'm fine with that. So let's give it to Director Wong. She started the process. Let's let her make the motion and get a second.
Okay, Director Wong.
I think I'm perfectly fine with that. And if it would make, and as a suggestion, whether or not if it would make you comfortable and the rest of the board comfortable, is that considering Direct Chair Shea and Chair Kelly are the signers, they can approve. They're on this call. They know the sentiment of this board, and you know, I don't want to spend the time wordsmithing. We have already done our briefing and on this matter as to the letter before this meeting. So I think that both Chair Shea and Chair Kelly, as part of the motion, can do the final approval on the technical languages that council might, will include in those letters.
Thank you. So to be clear, the motion is to approve the response to the grand jury, that is the document in front of us with the several pages, and to modify the letter to include language as to why the Englander materials are presented, and to adjust the language on the paragraph about the audit, stating that we are open to public scrutiny. And I believe those were the changes that we heard, those two items that only have to do in the cover letter.
And that the chairs are authorized to approve whatever further changes are made.
And the chairs are authorized to approve those final tweaks to the letter. To state your motion, Director Wong.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Kring,
Director
second.
Chafee,
Yeah,
second.
Oh, check, okay. Check.
Kring, second?
Yes.
Okay. Director Kring, seconds. Now we will have our roll call vote.
Chair Shea,
Yes.
Vice Chair Puckett,
Yes.
Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Beal,
Yes.
Director Chafee,
Aye.
Director Wong,
Yes.
Director Kelly,
Yes.
Director Kring,
Aye.
Director Miller,
You know, this is one of the issues I've had with this agency for a while. You bring us these things right before a deadline, and we don't get a chance to see them again. I know we had briefings, but this is the first time the board's had a chance to discuss this. I'm going to remain a no, only because I don't know what the language is going to look like, and I don't feel comfortable voting on something I haven't seen. So I'm a no.
Director Murphy,
I'm a no for the same reason. I would recommend that there be a quick review option to at least confirm the language, but I'll stay as a no to be consistent on the particular motion at hand.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Director Voigt, Director Voigt, Director Wagner,
No.
Director Ward,
No.
vote passes 10 in favor, with the no votes being Director Miller, Director Murphy, Director Wagner, and Director Ward, and also noting the absence of Director Voigt.
Thank you. The vote passes, and I will
And
now ask.
Madam Chair, this is Chair Shea. This was my uncomfort about this, so I would like us to get the language written and make sure all directors get a copy of that one paragraph change, so that at least, even if they voted no or voted yes, they understand what we're sending forward, because that's where I'm feeling uncomfortable somewhat about this process. So, but I will want to make sure that everyone gets to see it before it goes forward and can make comment.
Everyone will get a copy of the letter.
Okay.
Now I will entertain a motion from San Joaquin Hills Board.
This is Cynthia Connors. I move what she said.
We're moving the same,
Yeah, do you
same
want me to
motion that
repeat it?
Director
me to
Wong's
repeat it?
motion. No, that's, you don't need to repeat it. We have it.
Well, that's good. Okay. And I want to make one other comment, which is, I think that we need to trust our colleagues and we need to trust our chairs. And if we give our chairs the authority to sign the letter as amended, I think that makes good sense. But I have no opposition to having you send it out to everybody.
Okay.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it from San Joaquin.
That was Chair Shea made the second. And we will now have a roll call vote.
Chair Kelly,
Yes.
Vice Chair O'Neill,
Yes.
Director James, Director James, Director Bartlett,
Yes.
Director Connors,
Yes.
Director Heft,
Yes.
Director Minigart,
Yes.
Director Munzing,
Yes.
Director Penaloza,
Yes.
Director Shea,
Yes.
Director Stevens,
Yes.
Director Taylor,
Yes.
Alternate Miller,
No, for the same reason stated earlier.
Director Wagner,
No.
Director James,
No.
motion passes 11 in favor, the no votes being Director James, Alternate Miller, and Director Wagner.
All right, this motion passes. That concludes our action items. And there were no further public comments. So we'll now go to the CEO's report. Mr. Johnson?
I have nothing to report, Madam Chair.
Nothing to report at this time. Director's reports and new business?
No, I have no report.
Hearing none, we will now go to closed session, and I'm going to, you all were given a notice about how to do this closed session, but we will basically have you stay on the line, and you will be, the first item is a San Joaquin Hills item. So the Foothill Eastern folks will be put into a waiting room and then will be let in for the next item. So with that, we will recess to closed session. Okay, I will call the meeting of the Joint Boards of Directors back to order, and we will have the report of closed session from General Counsel, Mr. Joseph.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two items to report out of closed session. First, while in closed session, the Board of Directors of the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency voted unanimously to deny the government tort claims submitted by Kenneth Rollins. The second item is that while in closed session, boards of directors of both agencies, both the San Joaquin Hills and Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agencies, voted to appoint Samuel Johnson as Chief Executive Officer, with compensation to be determined at a subsequent board meeting. To detail the votes at both boards, for the San Joaquin Hills Transportation Corridor Agency, the vote was 11-2 with one absence. Those voting yes were Directors Kelly, O'Neill, James, Bartlett, Connors, Heft, Munzing, Penaloza, Shea, Stevens, Taylor. Those voting no, Directors Miller and Wagner. And for the Foothill Eastern Transportation Corridor Agency, the vote was 12-2 with one absence. Those voting yes were Shea, Puckett, Bartlett, Beal, Chafee, Wong, Kelly, Kring, Murphy, Penalosa, Taylor, and Ward. Those voting no were Miller and Wagner. And those directors who voted no would like the record to reflect that they did so because they were in favor of performing an outside recruitment in which they fully expected that Mr. Johnson would participate. And that concludes my report out of closed session.
All right, that concludes our meeting today. It's been a long one. Thank you, directors, for hanging in for so long. And I would like to congratulate Mr. Johnson. We are so very pleased that we have you in this position.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And we will adjourn now to October 8th at 9:30.
Aye.
All right.
Meeting is adjourned.
Thank you,
Thank you,
directors.
everyone.